In on the goal, Mrazek plays it out left wing side for Trocheck. Necha skates in, right wing side, gives it back to Niederreiter, then Rene comes across and makes a huge stop in front.
Not the first shot that Rene wanted to face.
No.
It's a heck of a save, though. It's got to feel good to get that first one under his belt.
He had about 5 or 6 of those last night where he was just fantastic. And again, they could have been playing the Nashville Dixie Flyers, and I wouldn't have cared because it was all about Pekka, but he was fantastic. And I think that's a sign of maybe there's still a little hockey there, but I'll be honest with you, and we'll get probably more to this. I don't see it. I think last night was it. I think last night was it. Time to get to your phones, though, because it is your day. 615-737-1025. Caroline Fenton on the text line. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And I promise I'm not ignoring the text line. What's in there, Caroline?
See, one texter disagrees with you. JD texted in, Pekka is the greatest Predator of all time without question. I think the fans have been endeared to Pekka more than any other athlete to play in this city. I was listening to the live stream on the app and almost teared up. I also think it is proved that he still has some in the tank. Poyle has said numerous times that if Pekka wants to play, he will always have a place in Nashville. If he wants to play in the States, it will be in Nashville. Longer season next year, you never know what can happen if Hughes gets hurt or what. I think Pekka stays.
So I don't think Pekka Rinne is signing up to play once every fifth night. I don't think he's signing up to play Carter Hutton's role. I'm sorry. I mean, again, I don't know what kind of, what kind of commitment he puts on himself or what kind of sacrifices he makes in order to be in the kind of shape that he's in. But I've seen what kind of shape he's in. I'm going to guess that he really sacrifices a lot of things in life. And it's easy to make that sacrifice when you've got an $8 or $9 million check coming and you know you're going to be playing every night. You know you're going to be competing every night. I think Pekka is gracious with how he has handled the idea of being a backup. But do I think Pekka Rinne is okay with putting himself through that kind of intense offseason commitment and then sitting on the bench for 5 out of 6 games? Or I can't even remember the last time he played before last night. I think it was like very early April. I don't think he's doing that. I wouldn't want to do that. And the man just had a kid. He just had a kid. He's got as much money probably as he'll want. He will have a chance to wrap up his career at home in Finland. I'm telling you, I don't think he's coming back. That's just me. I don't think he's coming back. Now, I will say this. I don't think the team knows. We talked about this yesterday about, do you think that the team's talked about it? Do you think the team knows? And if the team knows, then will it this? I don't think they've talked about it. I don't think he's talked about it with the team. And I don't think I don't think they know. I don't think they've talked about it. I think they're hopeful that he'll want to come back for one more season. Because if he comes back for one more season, then I think that's enough time to get the first-round draft pick last year ready probably to go to Milwaukee or to be the backup. Obviously, Connor Ingram situation, which is not a hockey-related situation, and I don't know anything about it, but surely that perhaps, you want to make sure that Connor Ingram takes care of Connor Ingram before there's any talk about Connor Ingram coming in and being the backup next year to UC Saros. So I'm sure in their world, they'd love it. Hey, Pekka comes back 1 year, $4 million, and he's the backup. But again, do you want to sacrifice that much? I mean, I'll put it to you like this, Caroline. You've been here for about a month now, a little bit, probably a little bit over that. You've seen how much I work on this radio show, right?
Right.
And I'm not somebody to sit there, and I never want to sit there and, talk about it because I feel like what you put out there is pretty much kind of a reflection of what you put into it. But I don't know if I'd want to put in all this work to do a 1 hour Saturday show every week. I'm not knocking the idea of being a backup, but Carter Hutton puts in the work to play as much as Carter Hutton plays. He's okay with that. I don't know if you're Pekka, if you spent a decade putting in all the work to be the guy, that you want to then put in all the work to not be the guy. And I'm not saying, and you know what, here's the other thing. I don't think it's selfish if Pekka decides that he doesn't want to do it.
No, absolutely not.
Because he played out his contract. He signed the big contract, the first no movement clause, the first player here to put his foot down and say, I'm in, I'm here, I'm ready to go. And he played through that contract, then played through another contract. I would not begrudge Pekka for doing anything that he wants. And that includes, and I don't think he's going to go to another team in the NHL. I wouldn't begrudge him if he did that. We saw Steve McNair play with the Ravens, saw Eddie George play with the Cowboys. I would not begrudge Pekka Rinne if that's what he wants to do, if that's what he wants to do and he wants to play.
Let's say Pekka has made up his mind and has decided to not come back next year, whether he's retiring or going somewhere else, whatever it may be, and the team does know that. What's the delay on making that announcement?
You're going to need him. I mean, you're going to need him. It's always weirds me out in the college football playoff when like a backup quarterback is on the roster and it's like, yeah, he's already decided that he's going to San Diego State after this game, but now he's in at quarterback, 3rd down and 9. It's like, but this is a little different. I mean, again, they might need him. UC Saros has never, ever been the starting goalie in the playoffs. UC Saros got hurt earlier this season. When UC Saros gets hurt, guess who has to go in? So I think that they look at it like they don't want to talk about it because they don't want to discuss the fact that, hey, we're thinking about life without you, or are you thinking about life without us? Because they want him thinking about going in there against the Carolina Hurricanes, and they want him to think that instead of worrying about anything past this year, they're worried about the Carolina Hurricanes. So I think that's why you wouldn't announce it. And I certainly think that that's probably why maybe they haven't talked about it. What else is in the text line?
One texter texted in and said, I think the team knows. Just watch the 3 minutes they remained on the bench after the game ended. It seems obvious last night was it.
So I'm going to lean more towards that it felt that way. But do they really know? Like Matt Duchene talked about, we're going to do this again next year. Do they really know?
I think they know that I think they know it's a possibility. So that's why they responded that way. That's why they cheered for him and gave him hugs after the game. They know it's a possibility. If it actually was his last name and they knew it, I kind of think it would have been a little bit more emotional for the players.
Yeah, I think it was pretty emotional. I just don't think guys like that talk like that. Tom Brady and we knew Tom wanted out. It's easy now in retrospect to say that, oh, yeah, of course Tom wanted out. Read the writing on the wall. But everybody couldn't fathom the idea that Brady wasn't going to be a Patriot. But we know when Logan Ryan intercepted that ball in the end zone and the Titans beat the Patriots. I mean, I think it was Jim Nantz who said, this could be the last time that we see Tom Brady as a Patriot. And then Brady leaves, but Brady was never going to talk about that. Brady was never going to tell those guys on that team, hey, guys, I'm out of here. Just so everybody knows, we're going to play the Titans, and if we beat the Titans, then we go to Kansas City. And if we go to Kansas City and then we lose, then I'm out of here. Brady would have never done that, and I think Pekka's kind of the same way. I don't think Pekka would tell those guys, hey, just so everybody knows, as soon as we get beat by Carolina, deuces. I don't think that's his personality. 615-737-1025. We'll get back to your calls and your texts. There is one thing, though, where, I look at Pekka last night as Pekka Appreciation Night. I look at that in the rear view. But going forward for Pekka, there is something about last night that I thought was pretty important. We'll touch on that next, then we're right back to your phone. Stillman Company live from 3rd and Home out here in Germantown. It is the bar with a ballpark. I'm staring at the right field foul pole. Left field's right in front of us out here at 3rd and Home where we are today here on Stillman Company. Don't miss the Cure for Our Friends Cystic Fibrosis Golf Tournament May 15th at the 12 Stones Golf Course in Goodlettsville. Some of the teams include retired Titans football players who will be around for the after party. Cure for Our Friends Golf Tournament still has a need for silent auction items. You can find more information at cureforourfriends.org. Thank you to Dad's Towing, Mitchell's Motors, and National Record Services for being the tournament sponsor of the 2021 Cure for Our Friends Cystic Fibrosis Golf Tournament. Stillman Company, it's ESPN 1025 The Game. Stillman Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 1025. The game, we are live at 3rd and Home in Germantown, the bar with a ballpark. It's connected to First Horizon Park. Sounds tonight open the season, so we're excited to be here. Caroline Fenton is here. So last night was Pekka Appreciation Night. As I said on Twitter, it was the Nashville version of Kobe Bryant dropping 60 in his final game when he dropped the mic, Mamba out. That was Pekka Rinne, although Pekka's never going to do something like that. I mean, there's things Pekka's going to do, and there's things Pekka taking the mic and talking to the fans and then dropping it and saying, Pekka out, that's never going to be something he does. But the sentiment amongst the fans, I think, was very similar last night. But there is one thing that I think he proved last night. He has not played in a while. This team has been very dedicated to just running UC Saros out there, and to their credit, Saros has played well, and Saros is the number one goalie. Everybody knows that. But, and not that I think there was much of a question in this regard, but the one thing I think Pekka Rinne proved to all of us, a lot of times when you see a guy play his last game like that, he really is on the decline. He really is on the downhill. Derek Jeter got a base hit in his last at-bat at Yankee Stadium to walk off against the Orioles, but that Yankee team was terrible. And honestly, Derek wasn't very good at that point. Like, it was time for DJ to hang it up. When Kobe scored 60, I mean, he just shot the ball every time down the court. That Laker team was terrible. Kobe was getting hurt. The Lakers hurt. I think, take the sentimental stuff aside, which I certainly, think was the storyline last night. Pekka Rinne told John Hines and told all of us last night, hey, if you need me against Carolina, I'm going in there. I'm ready. Now, I don't know. First of all, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. I think Carolina's pretty good. I think we need to be honest about how good Carolina is, but we'll have about 4 or 5 days to do all of that. They're not going to make a change. I had always thought that if it was kind of 1A, 1B, and then you lose the first 2 games, you make the change to the other guy just to see if that sparks you. If UC Saros goes out there and plays okay, but he doesn't steal any games, then I'm probably looking down the bench saying, okay, can you go in there and steal a game in this series? Because if you're going to beat Carolina, you have to steal 2 games. The goalie, with the way this team is built, the goalie's going to have to steal 2 games. You're going to have to get lucky in one, and you're going to have to beat them. You're going to have to beat them in one game, the way you beat them on Saturday night. You're going to have one of those. You're going to have one game where you get the puck off the skate, off the side, into the net, pure puck luck, and then the goalie's going to have to steal 2. But I do feel like they are so committed to Saros at this point that you can't think past next year if you just want to change it up to get a spark. I mean, he's your number one goalie. And you don't do that to your number one goalie. If you've got 2 goalies and you don't know who you like, I think the Predators played Anaheim in a playoff series a couple years ago, and they had Frederik Andersen and John Gibson, and they lost the first 2 games with Frederik Andersen, and in went John Gibson. You can do that. But when you've got a number one goalie you like, and he's your number one goalie, and he's proven he's number one, and you know he's number one, and you treat him like he's number one, he didn't come out. Carey Price is not coming out in the middle of a playoff series in Montreal. Tuukka Rask is not coming out in a playoff series in Boston. You do not take the number one goalie out. Just like after Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final, which I thought all that talk was ridiculous. Kind of like how I think the Julio Jones to the Titans talk is ridiculous.
Oh, I don't want to hear any of it.
But you still got people who are still talking about it. After Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final, Pekka had gotten pulled, and I didn't blame him for Game 2. I mean, Pittsburgh was just better. But there was all this chatter in the day off, in the travel day. There was all this just chatter about the fact that, maybe they'll make the move at goalie and maybe Peter Laviolette will change. I'm like, what? What? You're going to change the goalie situation in the Stanley Cup Final? You're going to take the guy who got you here? The guy who, in the Western Conference Final in 2017, without Ryan Johansson and Mike Fisher, gave up 1 goal on 33 shots in Game 5 and then stopped 38 of 41 in Game 6. The Predators got 16 shots in Game 6. He stopped 38 of 41. You got your butt kicked by Anaheim that night. But puck off Montour's skate into the net. Then you get a lead. Colton Sissons out of nowhere has a hat trick. And your goalie stops 38 out of 41 shots. I mean, you're going to bench that guy in the middle of the Stanley Cup final? No. They were never going to do that. And yet it was something people want to talk about. If Saros loses if he loses the 2 games at Carolina, I'm sure there will be some talk about, are they going to make the move to Pekka? Are they going to? I don't think they are. I don't think Hines is going to do that. And I would not advise that they do that. Whereas last year, when I thought it was more of a 1A, 1B situation, I advised making the change after Game 3 of the Arizona series. I think the only way he goes in there is if it's an injury situation. Because I don't think that they can bench Saros, and I think that's kind of a long-term play for them. But I do think the one thing he proved last night, he is ready if they need him against Carolina. And I think Saros can steal you a game against Carolina. Maybe he can steal you too. I think Pekka could steal you a game against Carolina. Maybe he can steal you too. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. I see people waiting. Adam is up next. Thank you for waiting. And you go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, I got 2 things, man. Number one, what a heavy night. Like, I was emotional watching it. I'm sure everybody as at the stadium was emotional watching. It was just cool seeing him do the lap. He deserved it. I hope he doesn't ever play another game. Like, pitching a 5-0 shutout against the best team in the league, I don't care who they were sitting, is a really cool way for that guy to go out. And I would never want to have to play against him. So I really hope you don't talk about that too much because I don't want to think about it. But me and you talked about Rocco last week, and I really want to ask you one more time, man. I don't just want to hear he's not good enough. I want to know what he's not good enough. Ian told me a little bit, but I want to hear what he's not good enough at because he looked fast. He looked explosive. He looked good. He scored, got the scoring started. You got to tell me why you don't like him. I would hate to imagine us playing playoffs and Rocco not starting.
Sure. So Rocco's not going to play. Thank you for your call, Adam. Rocco's not. I would be stunned if Rocco Grimaldi is on the ice in the Carolina series. The truth of the matter is, if you're going to beat Carolina, you're going to have to be physical with them. You're going to have to make it really hard for them to get through the neutral zone, and you're not going to allow them to set up shop in your own end. If you do that, you lose. If they set up shop in the Nashville zone, you take penalties, you do things like that, you lose. I think it's just as simple as that. So you got to be big, you got to be physical, and you got to push them around. Rocco doesn't do that. I think Rocco's a much better player than Brad Richardson. I think he's a better player than Tanner Jeannot. I think he's a better player than a lot of guys, perhaps, in the forward lineup. But you're going to have to be physical with these guys. You're going to have to hold your own weight. You're going to have to push them down. You're going to have to knock them back. Rocco just simply doesn't do that. Rocco's not great in his own end. He's not great in the neutral zone. He's not a very physical player. The way this is going to work, go back to 2017. You all know how much I hate talking about that. But go back to 2017. The way this is going to work is you're going to have like a handful, like 16 forwards, 16 to 17 forwards or something like that. And you're going to mix and match those guys. If you have a nice little run, guys are going to get hurt. So you're going to have to bring guys into the lineup. Remember Harry Zoldner-Chuck against Chicago? Remember Pontus Aberg got hurt against Chicago? He went out, came back for Anaheim. Remember Cody McLeod with the game winner against the St. Louis Blues, Vernon Fiddler, and you'll move it around when you win a game here. You feel like, you know what, we need to get a little bit more physical. We need to get a little bit tougher. So Brad Richardson is in and somebody else is out. The only guy I would put Rocco Grimaldi in for, and I would consider it, and I know people are going to get so mad at me, Caroline, oh my God, it's Arvidsson. I just don't think Arvidsson does anything anymore. I think Arvidsson is a back of the baseball card kind of guy, which is, hey, you know Arvidsson scored 30 goals like 4 years ago? Okay, great. But I don't think there's that much of a difference right now between Arvidsson and Rocco. That's the only guy. And I would, as much as I hate giving someone credit for what they've done in the past, I would go Arvidsson over Rocco. But I don't think Arvidsson really does anything anymore. And I certainly don't think Arvidsson is a playoff player. Because as they say, when the playoffs get going, the big good guys beat the good little guys. And that's kind of where Rocco. Were you going to take out Granlund? No. You're not taking out Matt Duchene. You can't take out Matt Duchene. You cannot do that. So it's basically like, okay, you're going to take out Eric Halla? No. You're going to take out Brad Richardson? I would in a different series, but in a series where I want to be more physical and I want to be tougher, I'm really playing those guys. And I'm certainly not messing with that fourth line because those guys are physical and those guys have, the other night, Tanner Jeannot was laying people out. So I don't see, personally, I don't see Arvidsson, or I don't see Rocco making the lineup. Though he did, in fairness to him, he did make his case. He did make his case last night.
Had a goal last night.
And
to be fair, Arvidsson had a hat trick a few weeks ago. I mean, it's not like he's done nothing.
No, but I just don't. Again, like Rocco had a hat trick a few weeks ago too, and we don't even think he's going to be in there. I do not think Arvidsson produces enough anymore. I don't. I think that he's too injury prone. I think the injuries over the years have caught up to Arvidsson. I never thought Arvidsson was a great two-way player. You know, he's a scrapper, which is fine. But I think he's a back of the baseball card guy. This series is going to be won by the Cali Yarn Croaks. You know, by the two-way guys, the Colton Sissons, the two-way guys that are going to pitch in a goal here or there, but are really going to take the fight to Carolina, that are really going to grind up against them, that are really going to push them off the spot, that are really going to just keep them from getting that puck through the neutral zone. That's the whole key to the series. If they set up shop and you're in, it's over. Back to your phones next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Again, I do wonder what is the situation that it would take for John Hines to go to Pekka, because in fairness to Pekka, I think he's clearly shown that if he has to go in this Carolina series, he's ready to do it. 615-737-1025 is our number. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. They're proud supporters of the Nashville Predators. See that logo right there on the ice, the Bally Sports you see right there, you know, imposed on the glass, imposed on the ice, that big Hiller logo. Hiller, they are very proud to be supporters of the Nashville Predators. When you walk into Bridgestone Arena, there's a giant Hiller banner there because they love the Predators that much. They're also proud supporters of the Vols, and they're proud supporters of the fact that tax credits for energy-efficient home systems are back this year. When you put an Energy Star certified equipment into your home, you'll earn a tax credit with the IRS. And this month, Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical is helping you keep more money in your pocket and doubling that tax credit when you purchase select new HVAC systems or tankless water heaters. Also, they're offering special financing, which means no payments until next year. Visit happyhiller.com for all of the details. As always, happy you'll be or the service is free. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Preds and the Vols. We're live from the wholesaling studio powered by RumbleOn.com at 3rd and Home in Germantown at Stillman Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving. It's ESPN 1025 The Game.
Predators' Cousins sends it back down left wing side. Here's Richardson trying for Olivier. Delay penalty call coming up on Carolina. Predators still control the puck. Lewington down the right side. Goes outside with it. Looking, and the Cousins tried, deflected it. And the Predators on the delay penalty extend their lead to 3-0.
I think that's Duchesne off the rebound, just kind of lurking in the weeds, and the shot comes off to the side, and he buries it.
It was nice to see Matt Duchesne score twice on Pecorine night. As I tweeted out after the first goal, I said, I think that's him saying, hey, coach, you're not benching me. You're not benching me anymore. And if Matt Duchesne keeps scoring goals, he will not be benched.
So he got benched and then started playing harder the next game? That was something that you said that wasn't going to be.
I said it's something you can't bank on.
Oh, well.
I said you cannot bank on it.
I banked on it, and it happened.
It happened in a meaningless game. I said, well, let's see what happens when it gets going for real. Which, of course, we will have tons of time to discuss, but today is Pekka Day.
It is Pekka Day.
So
no fighting on Pekka Day.
Unless you have a thought, or to the phones.
To the phones.
Phones we go. Phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jay has been waiting very patiently and is up next here on Stillman Company. What's up, Jay?
How are you guys? I love the show, and I agree with most of the takes. I can see every which way, but I have an opinion.
Thank you.
Absolutely. First of all, yesterday, Pecorino Day, quote unquote, was a fan-based and media-based thing that took off. It was not organized by the team. It just took off in the morning, and it seemed to steamroll all day into the night, and it played out just the way a fan day likely should or would.
Sure.
But he has never made a comment saying last night. One is he actually just touched like on one sentence that nothing's in concrete for next year, while everybody was still celebrating Pecorine night. That's number one. Number two is the fact that he has said that he will not chase a Stanley Cup with another team. Those two things have been said. Could he go to Finland and play? Conceivably, absolutely yes. I wouldn't see him taking the Carter Hutton role like you suggested, Jared, 100%, except for the fact that I think he does have a love for the team. They have a love for him. The older brother thing, the Finnish connection, the amount of European players that are coming into the team, there's something there. He is clearly the face of the franchise.
Jay, I'm going to be honest with you, man. I hear you, and I get it, but I feel like you want this more than you want this to be true. So you're like, there's all these European players on the team, so he would want to stay for all the European players.
No. That's not it, Jared. And I can see how you're saying that, but I still think that he does have something in the tank, and I could.
He got something in the tank now. I mean, he's got. Jay, thank you for your call, by the way. He's got something in the tank now. I mean, now I don't think he can play every night. I think that we learned that this year. He'd come out of a great game and then a night off, and then the next night and kind of struggle. So I don't think he's an every night guy anymore, but he's definitely got something in the tank. Let's kick it around the room. And this could be a much larger topic, but I think the idea that he's coming back is probably wishful thinking. And that's just just my opinion. Let's kick it around the room. Caroline, is he coming back?
No.
Ian, is he coming back?
I'm going to lean no.
Okay. So I'm not to sit here to say that, well, I want him back. I mean, Pekka, not that, Pekka and I are buddy-buddy or anything like that, but I feel like, well enough to know each other well enough to, maybe believe what comes out of the other's mouth. And I'll just say, Pekka, I want you to come back. But I'm not expecting Pekka to come back. I'm just being honest.
Yeah, I don't see it happening, and last night felt like it. And to the caller's point, yes, it was kind of media-driven, fan-driven. There were so many fans with signs that said, thank you, Pekka, or we love Pekka, whatever it may be.
Sure.
But also, he was the only star of the game last night. That is a team thing. And the standing ovation at the end of the game felt, yes, that's a fan-driven thing, but also it felt like it. So, yes, while it felt very media-driven and fan-driven, it also had a little bit of depth in the team as well.
So I think I'm very modest.
Are you?
I don't like taking credit for things that, but I also think sometimes it's important to point things out about yourself. I mean, I would say, if we were on the modesty scale, I would say there's Pekka Rinne on one side, one end of the spectrum, and then there's Clay Travis on the total far other end of the spectrum, and I'd like to say I'm right in the middle. But I do like to point out sometimes that I think I ask the best questions in press conferences, as in I ask the questions that are headlines in newspaper articles and are whatever. Well, yesterday I asked the first question about Pekka. Is he going to play and is he going to retire? And normally I'd sit here and say, hey, I asked the question today. I didn't really say that yesterday about that because I knew that if I didn't ask it, the next question would have been that question.
So you wanted to get it in first.
Well, I just went first. It was the most important thing, so I asked about it. But, I mean, look.
You win.
That everybody was talking about Pekka. I mean, look, it was inevitable. It was inevitable that it was going to be the talk. And so, yeah, media-based, fan-based. By the way, most things that are media-based are based off of what the fans care about. That's how we do this show.
Right. I mean, it's media-based because it's based in something other than just a random thing that we picked up out of nowhere.
Sure.
It's based in some sort of fact.
Right. It's like that, the fans, when they get mad at the team, they go on those, like, Roman Yossi's a bad captain rants, and then, like, we don't really ever run with that. And as we said, we disproved that pretty obviously yesterday. But for the most part, if the fans are talking about it, we're probably talking about it too. Keith is up next on Pekka Rinne. Thank you for calling the show. Go ahead, Keith.
Hey, guys. Jared, you're right there with Clay Travis. Let's not kid ourselves.
Oh, no.
Hey, yeah, I hope Pekka comes back, but in a way I hope he goes ahead and retires because last night was so perfect. I mean, I'm kind of an emotional person anyway, but I did, man. I was tearing up, But, and somebody like Pekka is easy to be like that. He makes it easy. And
Let me say this about Keith. Keith, to your point, I think you really hit on something, and I appreciate your call. And what I think he hit on was, let's say that last night was Pekka's last night. Let's say they play Carolina. Saros starts all 5 games. They lose, in 5, and that's it. And Pekka goes back to Finland and does whatever. This is a pretty good way to go out. That's a pretty good way to go out. And I know that everybody wants him back, but again, would you want Pekka if Pekka wasn't, a good player, or if Pekka, was really struggling down the stretch? Would you want to run him out there and get him beat in his last game 4-0 and that be the end of the career for Pekka Rinne? I mean, 99% of athletes don't get to pick when they go out. I have a buddy who pitched in a game in September of 2016 and was getting ready to go pitch in 2017 in the major leagues and threw a pitch and boom, Tommy John surgery, never got his velocity back, never got back to the major leagues, hung it up. And not that he's not at peace with that decision, but the fact that he didn't get to pick how he went out. Again, Steve McNair and Eddie George. Eddie George went out in the middle of the summer, right before training camp, contract dispute. He left. Steve McNair locked out of the facility. He got released. He left, went to the Ravens. Do you really want that if you're Pekka? That's where you look and you're like, man, you can't script it better than that. I mean, if this were a movie and you were trying to script it and you were looking at, here's a kid from Finland drafted in the 8th round, a round that doesn't even exist anymore, to a team that can't fill up its building, so the guy from Blackberry is trying to buy him and move him out to Canada. And then all of a sudden they get mad enough, the fans do, that they just sell enough tickets in order to keep the team. The team gets sold to a local investor who happens to be a Ponzi schemist. Then you got to get more local people involved just to keep the team here. And then flash forward 10 years later, and they're the hottest thing going. Not just in the town, but, that Predators run, the way that the crowd was in Nashville, at downtown, everything, I felt like that was a national story. You got Charles Barkley coming to games saying, man, this is like Michael and the Bulls in the 90s. And then to end it, Vezina Trophy, continues his career, turns it over to a countryman who obviously they're very, very close, who he was an idol for, and then he has that game and he goes out. That's like a movie script. So I'm not saying I'm rooting for him not to come back. I'm not sure it can be much better than that. 615-737-1025. We'll just hit a couple more of your phones, and we will get a news update coming up next as we are live out here at 3rd and Home. Again, the Sounds kick off the season. Oh, man, it is playoff time. Today's Pekka Day, but it is playoff time as well.
Playoff season.
Which is very, very exciting here on Stillman and Company. ESPN 1025 The Game and T-Mobile have partnered up to give you a chance to experience a Nashville SC game this season. Tune in every Monday to Darren, Donick, and Chase for the keyword to text in to win. Good luck from 1025 The Game, T-Mobile, and Nashville SC. Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving. It's ESPN 1025 The Game.
Given over left wing side, quick shot. Rene stops not one shot, but two, maybe three, as the Predators come away with the puck.
Strong left pad. He was falling down after the initial save and was able to keep his pad down to make two more saves.
There you go. Pekka was on fire last night. Let's go back to your phones as promised. We'll get Caroline's news update here in a second, which, by the way, there is some juicy news. I mean, I know it's Pekka Day, but there is some juicy news. Let's go to your phones. Jim is up next. He wants to defend Victor Arvidsson. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, Jared, I enjoy your intensity and preparation on the Preds and the Titans.
Thank you.
But if Victor can go, I want him in there He was buzzing about 2 or 3 weeks ago. He was scoring, and even if they knock him around, our big guys can defend him. And so I want him in there for this playoffs if he can go.
So I understand what you're saying. I mean, he's going to be in there. And I appreciate your culture. Arvidsson's going to be in there. I'm just saying that if you want Rocco Grimaldi in it, this is how this works, Caroline, is one guy calls in, demands that Rocco Grimaldi be in the lineup. And I'm just like, look, there's no room for Rocco the way we think this series is going to go. There's not a spot for Rocco in the lineup. And if there was a spot, it would be Arvidsson's spot. So then the guy says, another guy hears it as Jared says, yank Arvidsson out. And I'm not saying yank Arvidsson out. I'm just saying if there was a spot, it would be Arvidsson's spot. And, Arvidsson's going to be in there, but I have soured a little bit on Arvidsson. That's all I'm saying. But you know how this works. Is it's like you hear one thing and then you get mad about that.
Right, but the people love their Victor Arvidsson, so I don't think that they love hearing you say, pull him in the playoffs. And I don't think that's going to be the case at all.
Well, but they need to win. That's the one thing I love about this, right? People love Arvidsson, so they don't want to take him out. Who cares? Who gives you the best chance to win?
I know. I'm not saying keep him in because the people like him, but people are going to call in and be mad if you say pull him.
I know. I'm trying to think of who's not. Okay, I'm just going to throw out names. You tell me if those guys. You tell me if they're going to be in the lineup. Forsberg, Johansson, Tolvanen, Duchesne, Brad Richardson, Granlund. Who are you taking out?
I don't know. You're not touching the fourth line.
No.
That's staying the same.
No.
This is such a unique problem for the Predators now at this point in the season because I feel like the conversation a month ago was who the heck is going to play? Everyone's out. Everyone's hurt.
3 weeks ago, yeah. When everyone
got
hurt.
It was not
Rem
that
Pitlick
long
in the
ago.
lineup.
Right. Well, Rem Pitlick was in the lineup last night. He looked good.
Yeah, and, again, I don't want to knock Pekka night because it was Pekka night, but, you're not taking Eric Howell out.
No.
You're not taking Mikhail Granlund out.
No.
You're not taking Kalle Yarncroke out of the lineup. You're not taking Colton Sissons out of the lineup. So who do you take out of the lineup? And to me, if you want Rocco in there, you take out Arvidsson. That's it. It's a 1-for-1 thing, and that's it. Arvidsson will be in there. It's time now for headlines with Caroline.
We're spanning the sports world. It's Headlines with Caroline on Stillman Company. Right here on Nashville's best sports talk. ESPN 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
All right, give it to me straight.
Some very exciting news for baseball fans in Nashville. Jeff Passan, ESPN baseball writer, released an article today that said the Oakland Athletics will start exploring the possibility of relocating with the blessing of Major League Baseball. So Rob Manfred had said that the league will not expand. It will not add any expansion teams until the A's and the Marlins get a new ballpark. And the Rays get new ballparks. And the Rays had said, okay, here's our plan. Our lease is up for this park in 2028. That's when we'll start looking at new plans for a new ballpark. But the A's have said, okay, at this point, we just think we would be better fit in a different city. Now, so far, the most likely landing spot for the Oakland Athletics would likely be Vegas. But Nashville, Charlotte, and Montreal and Vancouver are also in conversation for the Oakland Athletics.
So here's the thing. I think we need to focus on Tampa Bay. And I know that everybody's like, whoa. I want it now. Oakland looks like they're going to move now. They're going to keep a West team out West. So Portland's going to probably be in the mix here, and they'd like it because you got the American League West, and Seattle's up there. So, okay. So Portland's going to be in play there, and Vegas is going to be in play there, and maybe Albuquerque, New Mexico's in play or something like that.
Which makes sense.
The Rays are the team. Now, I will go very in-depth in this at some point, maybe tomorrow. I don't know. But everybody asks me all the time, are we going to get a baseball team, Jared? Are we going to get a – first of all, we have the sounds. But are we going to get a baseball team, Jared? And I know what they mean, Major League Baseball. It has to be another county in the state of Tennessee. It's not going to be Davidson County. Let me just ask this question. Is John Cooper really going to build a baseball stadium? Okay. So now that we have that out of the way, I think it has to be Rutherford County.
Why not?
Well, you're new here.
Yeah.
So you don't know John Cooper very well.
No.
He's the mayor.
Yes.
He, in 2018, came in studio and got into a shouting match with me about the soccer stadium. He didn't want to build a soccer stadium.
Well, that's built.
Right. But he was Metro Council member at large then. Now he's the mayor. John Cooper's not building a baseball stadium. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay.
But that's just take it off the table.
Yes.
Now, even if there's a mayor after John Cooper, and there will be a mayor after John Cooper, but even after that, again, there's just not money in Davidson County, in my opinion, to build a baseball stadium. And this Nashville Stars thing where they're like, oh, yeah, we're going to have totally, no taxpayer dollars to build a brand new state-of-the-art downtown facility. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. It makes zero sense. So it has to be, I think, Rutherford County, and I think it has to be the Rays. It's going, though, to take some time. I think the Rays are locked into their lease until 2027.
2028 I saw, but that season.
Okay, so you would have to basically have it done by like 2025, 2026. So that gives you time to put in a plan. You build a giant entertainment district in Rutherford County that has a ballpark inside of it. You get a bunch of great bars and restaurants like Third and Home, which, is a fantastic bar that we're at right now. And what I would do is I would go to the Broadway bars, and I would basically want like a Rippey's ballpark, kind of like the Battery in Atlanta. Then you move the Rays. Why does it have to be the Rays? Because instead of an expansion franchise where you got to sell tickets and get players, you get the Rays, decent team, decent organization structure, and you get 9 home dates against the Yankees every year, 9 home dates against the Red Sox every year, and I have to assume that they will make the Atlanta Braves the primary rival of the Rays as opposed to the Marlins like it is now. Mm-hmm. And you'd have at least 2 dates, maybe more, against the Braves every year. So now we're talking about 20 dates that are probably going to sell out no matter what. I think that's the way to go. And, I would buy season tickets. I would buy season tickets, and I wouldn't go every night, but I'd go a lot of nights. And it'd be like, oh, it's a Saturday night at home against the Red Sox. We're driving 45 minutes down to Murfreesboro to go to the game. They'd still be the Nashville team, but it would be outside of Davidson County. I think that's your best bet for a team. And I know everybody gets excited every time, and everybody, well, what about this Nashville Stars thing? They got Justin Timberlake. They got Luke Combs. Those guys can't buy baseball teams. I just want everybody to know that. Those guys can't buy baseball teams. And not only that, I don't think a single baseball team is up for sale. So it's going to take some time. It's going to have to be, you're going to have to get part of the deal. They're going to have to negotiate out early with Tampa Bay because Tampa and Oakland are not building new stadiums. So you'd have to kind of get Tampa Bay to negotiate their way out a little bit early, but you'd have to build them a big entertainment district with a ballpark in it, and it would cost a lot of money, probably $3 billion, but that's probably what it would take.
See, I think that the best thing for Nashville will be an expansion team. Because I think most people in Nashville already have their MLB team alliances.
But now you have to wait till 2030 for that.
But you would be waiting until 2028 for the Rays.
Right. But like I said, you can try to get the Rays to negotiate out a little bit. So maybe they're here in 2027. But, you get expansion, you start in 2030, and you're not good until when? It takes a long time to build an expansion team up from nothing. And then not only that, but where are you getting the money? And I don't know if you know this about land in Nashville, but they're not making more of it. So right. By that time, will there even be space for a ballpark and for a stadium district in a thing of that magnitude? I don't see expansion. I just don't see it that way. I don't see expansion. What division do they put you in? So, oh, great. Now the Milwaukee Brewers are coming to town. Give me the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Braves because that'll fill it up.
You were just American League Alliance. I'm a big National League girl. But anyway, speaking of an expansion team.
I'm not American League Alliance. Who's going to get butts in the seats?
Speaking of an expansion team, a price tag for an expansion team is very, very high. Reb Manfred came out recently and said that it would be about $2.2 billion to buy an expansion team. And he said, that's the average cost of a baseball. That's the average value of a Major League Baseball team. But a lot of people are saying, no, that's way too high because there are a lot of teams that are worth a lot more than your regular average baseball team. See the Yankees that are worth $6 billion. The Red Sox, the Dodgers, the Cubs, and the Giants are all worth over $3 billion. So he's asking for a new expansion team. The price tag be $2.2 billion. And right now, Major League teams that are worth $2.2 billion are the Cardinals, the Mets, the Phillies, and the Angels. Like, do you really think an expansion team is going to have the reach and the value of the Cardinals, the Mets, and the Phillies and the Angels?
Yes.
I don't think so.
You're asking me, do I think that price is worth it? Do I think $2.2 billion
I think it's high.
Is worth an expansion price? That's the price. And I think the thing about those kind of prices is somebody going to be willing to pay it? That's what it all boils down to, is the price of something is not, what Forbes values your team at. The price of it is what somebody is willing to pay for it. I mean, I think the Clippers were valued at like $900 million, and Steve Ballmer bought them for like $3 billion. So all of a sudden, who cares about Forbes valuation? It's all what someone's willing to pay. I don't know if someone's willing to pay $2.2 billion for a baseball team, but that doesn't really surprise me. I mean, the owners are going to get their money now. If you expand, owners are going to get their money. And not only that, I would argue that you're going to have to build them a stadium that's about worth that much, if not more, with that entertainment district. So I'm telling you, Rays, get a team that's already got an organizational structure, already has. We know, look, the Yankees and the Red Sox might not be good. And again, I don't see a Major League Baseball stadium being built in Davidson County. So you're going to have to get away from that. What else is in the update?
This weekend, DK Metcalf ran in the USA Track and Field Golden Games and Distance Open. He wanted to qualify for the Olympics in the 100-meter race. He ran a 10.35. And just to put that into perspective, I mean, you're breaking down hundreds of seconds here when you're talking races, but Usain Bolt set a world record with 9.58. DK Metcalf ran a 10.36. It's pretty impressive. He came in 15th of 17th place. He did not qualify, but I mean, a guy of that size running 100 at that speed is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was pretty cool.
Super cool.
I guess I'm not huge into all that stuff, like the running and the swimming and the Olympics. Like, it's fine. I will say this, man. I missed on DK Metcalf. Oh, my God. I thought he was a combine warrior, run straight line kind of guy. Thought he'd be, whatever. And, boy, he's a superstar. I mean, he is a stud. So I definitely missed on him. I mean, I think, like, the idea of DK Metcalf finished in last place. Ha, ha, ha. I mean, okay. Well,
I mean, the guy's not a professional runner. I mean, these people dedicate their lives to running 100-meter races. He dedicates his life to football and just happened to say, hey, I think I want to run in the Olympics in the 100-meter race.
What's next?
Also, the Jaguars plan on signing Tim Tebow. We talked about that a little bit yesterday. Jeff Darlington came on ESPN today and said that not everyone in the Jaguars building is thrilled with this. That is not surprising whatsoever.
That's because it's stupid.
It's because it's stupid. It said it doesn't send the right message to the rest of the guys in the locker room. Urban Meyer thinks it could be a cultural jolt in the locker room. Of course Urban Meyer thinks that. Of course he's going to say that. But I think it sends such a terrible message that, look, hey, this guy hasn't played an NFL down since 2012, but now we're going to bring him in and pay him a bunch of money, even though he hasn't played in 9 years.
So I heard Robbie and Rexro talking about this morning, and they kind of they talked about it a little bit or whatever. And then it just out of nowhere, Robbie just goes, I think this is pretty much like we all think Urban Meyer is going to be an unmitigated disaster, right? And I was just like, yes. Like that, yes, that's the take. Like that is,
yes.
And Robbie said it so matter-of-factly, like everybody just knows. It is what it is, and
it felt like a disaster when he was first announced as head coach.
Yeah, it sounded dumb, and now this.
And now
is,
this
is
a
like joke.
Pomp and circumstance.
It's a joke. Headlines with Caroline Stillman and Company. We are live from Third and Home. Do all that talking about getting a major league team. Look at Stillman Company is live from 3rd and Home here in Germantown. It's attached to First Horizon Park. And First Horizon Park, the best minor league baseball stadium in America, finally gets to get used. I don't even know what they did for the last year and a half, but it has been 500-plus days since they have played baseball. Tonight, the Sounds take on the Memphis Redbirds. Just a little bit of a nice little rivalry there, taking on the Redbirds. And I should just tell all the people out there that, of course, we love the fact that you can get your tickets, but this season, catch all the action of National Sounds Baseball on ESPN 94.9. The home opener, a 6-game homestand against the in-state rival Memphis Redbirds at First Horizon Park. The pregame will start at 6:20, first pitch 6:35. National Sounds Baseball on ESPN 94.9 is presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans and 312 Pizza. And the voice of the National Sounds, Jeff Him, will be on the call this season, has already been on the call, but will be on the call tonight for the home opener. Jeff, 1, it's good to have you guys back. 2, more importantly, how have we been?
Jared, it's good to talk with you, man, and it is great to be back. It's great to be back in the ESPN Nashville family with our broadcasts. It is great to be overlooking this ballpark right now as I join you from my booth, and I can almost wave to you over at 3rd and Home, but you've got a good view over there, and I've got a fantastic view because there are ball players out on the field taking batting practice, preparing for a game. As you know, it's been over 600 days since we last did this in this ballpark, and it is just so sweet to have it back. It's long overdue, and I'm just so thankful that it's here and that our great fans have been so patient throughout this whole process. And we're not all the way back, but man, we are pretty close to back to normal with the sights that we get to have tonight.
And I think it's funny because you realize how much you miss the Sounds when you go a summer without them. I was talking about this with Caroline the other day about just how entertaining the Sounds games are on top of the baseball, and it's nice to have the Brewers back in the fold as the affiliate, the major league affiliate for the Sounds are the AAA affiliate of the Brewers. It's nice to have them back into the fold, a nice roster. So if you're a big-time baseball fan, First Horizon Park's where you're going to want to be this year. And not only that, if you're just looking, hey, where's outside? Where's cold beverages? Where's a good time to be had? Yep. First Horizon Park, I think, checks all the boxes. This year, I know that it was kind of funky how Major League Baseball handled the affiliation situation. I thought, Jeff, that we were kind of in for a long marriage with the Texas Rangers. That was done after 1 year. But it's nice to have the Brewers back in the fold, and it looks like they've given the Sounds a pretty decent roster.
Yeah, they have. I mean, in the short term, we're 5 games into the season, so the old small sample size applies, but the Sounds have already hit 12 home runs. There is some serious firepower in this lineup, and several guys who are either high-level Brewers prospect, like catcher Mario Feliciano or pitcher Aaron Ashby, or guys with a ton of major league time, like former Atlanta Brave Jace Peterson, former batting champion and all-star D. Strange Gordon. Logan Forsythe's had a ton of big league time. He actually makes his home here in Middle Tennessee these days. He's a Tennessee native. He's on the team. So you've got a very traditional, I guess in some sense, AAA roster because you've got that perfect blend of the young guys coming up and good veterans around them who are trying to get to the big leagues in their own right. And to your other point, I think you hit it right on the head. I mean, we the Sounds take great pride in having something for everybody. I know that is easy to say, but it is so true. It's never been truer as we finally get to have this season get underway. If you are the hardcore baseball fan who wants to be as close as you can and never miss a pitch, we are more than happy to have you, and we've got a really high level of baseball to let you watch. If you're the bandbox crowd or you're letting the kids run around toward the grass berm or somewhere in between, we've got all of that for you, new menu items, new promotions this year. It's never just a copy and paste from, whatever we did last year, let's do it again the next year. It's always being evaluated. It's always got the fans' best interest in mind. Certainly this year there are some protocols in place for the fans' best interest in mind, the old know before you go, which we've got laid out on NashvilleSounds.com as far as the different policies and how to get your mobile tickets. We're no more printing tickets. It's all digital, which other teams around town have done. So I think a lot of fans are used to that by now, but that's one change since we last had a game In 19, there's a clear bag policy. MLB is requiring facial coverings for entry, and if you're moving around the concourse. But if you're in your seat eating and drinking, you can obviously pull the facial covering down. But that's an MLB thing. We want our fans to know that as they come to games this homestand. It's not a Metro Nashville thing. It's an MLB policy throughout their countrywide ballparks, the facial covering required upon entry. So those things are in play, but I think in large part it can feel fairly normal. We're at 40% capacity tonight, tomorrow, and Thursday, but then beginning Friday, we're basically at 100%. I say basically because we will have a couple of pod-style, socially distanced seating in a couple of sections, but otherwise it's 100%. So it's back. We've got it. We're more than ready. We've been craving for this season, so we're going to put on a good show for the fans on and off the field and make sure we do it as safely as always.
You left out the most important player on the Sounds, Jeff.
What's that? Who you got?
Corey Ray. Most important player.
I knew you'd go for the Louisville alum. I knew you'd go for the Louisville alum.
We went to college together.
I mean,
it's, kind of, you got, hey, Nick Solak was here a couple years ago, and now got Corey Ray. So I just,
That's right. Corey's off to a good start. He's already hit a couple of home runs. He made his big league debut a couple of weeks ago, so he's gotten the proverbial taste of the big leagues, and he's just in a great frame of mind. He was my pregame show guest over the weekend in Toledo. He's just in a great place mentally. He's looking great physically. I think he's ready, and he says all the right things. He knows he's been a top prospect for a long time, and some guys have gotten to the big leagues faster than he has. But he says, "Hey, I want to earn it. I haven't earned it yet. I'm going to earn it." He's just in a good place. I would not be surprised if he did get a quick shot up to the big leagues because he's playing really well, and he just seems to be in a good spot. So, no, I would never leave out a former Louisville guy for you, Jared. And you're going to have to give me all the things I need to know because we go to Louisville now this season in our new AAA East realigned league with some more geographical proximity to our opponents. So you're going to have to make sure that I know what to do in Louisville, okay?
I when I saw the realignment, I thought Jeff Him's probably going to be pretty glad to not be making all those trips out west. The Salt Lake City trip is now no longer on the docket.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of changes for us since the last time. I mean, the last time the Sounds had a home game, you mentioned it a little bit, we were a Rangers affiliate playing in the Pacific Coast League. Now we're a Brewers affiliate in the AAA East League. The realignment portion was long overdue. I mean, it's fitting that it Sounds Redbirds tonight because all along a lot of people said, well, why don't you just take the Sounds and the Redbirds and move them over to what used to be the International League? They've effectively done that now. Omaha and Iowa have come over too, although they're in a different division. We're excited. We're excited to host the Louisville Bats. We know there are a lot of Reds fans in Nashville. We certainly know there are a lot of Braves fans. We've got Gwinnett coming in next week. We know there are a lot of Cardinals fans, so we're glad to keep playing Memphis. I mean, that part of it, the MLB fandom part of it, of the Middle Tennessee market is really important for our fans. It's just another element of what I was mentioning earlier, something for everybody. If you're the Chase McCabe Braves fan, we've got Gwinnett. Now, you still need to root for the Sounds, but if you want to come out to see the young Braves, I understand that, and you just got to make sure you wear the right hat when you do it.
Jeff Him, as always. Jeff, appreciate you. We'll see you on the call tonight.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jared. Talk to you soon.
Yep, Jeff Him will be on the broadcast, ESPN 94.9. Man, I used to actually cry, but I used to be just so bent out of shape about the fact that I was a Braves fan and that, the AAA Braves never came. They never came. They were in Richmond, Virginia. They never came.
Well, now you're in luck.
Yeah, now I am in luck.
Yeah.
Coming up next, I have one unpopular opinion about Pecorine night last night.
You've never had any of those.
Well, here's the thing. I've gotten to the point now where I know what an unpopular opinion is going to be, and it's not going to keep me from having the unpopular opinion. It's my opinion.
Fine.
I had it, so I'm not going to change it. But
you're just saying par for the course.
I have one unpopular Pecorine Day thought. We'll get to that next. Stillman Company. It's delivered by TriStar Moving. It's ESPN 102.5 The Game. Stillman Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 1025. The game, we are live at 3rd and Home out here in Germantown, attached to First Horizon Park. Sounds tonight in action. Get your tickets now. I have one unpopular opinion on the Pecorine night that was last night. And by the way,
you have more than just one unpopular opinion. But
no, not about last night.
On this.
Yeah. I mean, you know when opinions are going to be unpopular. Like, you know when you say, hey, I don't think Ryan Tannehill can play in the weather in Green Bay, that people are going to get mad, even though he's never been able to play in the weather in New England in the winter. He's never been able to play in the weather in Buffalo in the winter when he was with the Dolphins. But people are going to get mad. You know that. But you got to tell it like it is. And, a lot of people have been tweeting me. I compared last night to Kobe's last game when Kobe had 60, and I said it was the Nashville version. And people are like, man, I can't keep agreeing with you. I can't believe I'm agreeing with you. It's because that's a popular opinion to have. There's a lot of people that think Pekka should come back, or that are talking themselves into the idea that Pekka should come back with the Nashville Predators. I have said I want Pekka to come back. But that's selfish. I want Pekka to come back because I think he's a good player. I want Pekka to come back because I think he's good for the team. And I want Pekka to come back because, let's be honest, he's a better backup goalie than they would probably go out and get. Connor Ingram, maybe, I don't know. But then think about all the recycled guys that just happen to always be backup goalies. Jonathan Bernier, John Gibson, just all these guys are just the Cam Talbots of the world. Like, Pecorine is clearly better than the Carter Huttons. No offense to Carter Hutton. But he's better than all those guys. Anton Hudobin or, Halak in Boston. He's better than all those guys. So I would prefer that they have Pekka instead of that guy. But I don't think Pekka's coming back. And I don't think Pekka's coming back because I don't think Pekka is going to put himself through all the hard work that I guarantee you he puts himself through to be ready for a season in order to play once every 4 or 5 nights. I don't think Pekka's coming back because I think he believes it's time for UC Saros to have the number 1 job, because it's time for him to be out there without the safety blanket of Pecorine behind him, without it being, hey, you know what, if worse comes to worse, Pekka's out there. No, if worse comes to worse, it's you. I think he probably thinks Saros is ready. But I also wonder this. When we talk about Pekka, everybody says he's the greatest player in the history of the franchise. He's the most popular player in the history of the franchise. People are doing the, hey, Mount Rushmore, Pekka, Eddie George, Steve McNair, and whoever else you want to put up there. I don't do Mount Rushmore topics. If you want to do it on your own time. But just remember how things ended with Steve McNair. Do people remember that Steve McNair retired as a Baltimore Raven? Not just he retired as a Raven, like his last game was with the Ravens, but he legitimately retired as a Baltimore Raven. The I am retiring press conference was as a member of the Baltimore Ravens. You want that for Pecorine? Remember the contract dilemma with Eddie George. Eddie George, kind of in a similar spot as Pekka, not playing at the same Eddie George level that he had played at when he became Eddie George of the Tennessee Titans. But the Titans still loved him, and Titan fans still loved Eddie George. But after the Titans made it to the playoffs, and Eddie had a great game with a dislocated shoulder against the Ravens, they lost on the road to the Patriots, and the salary cap was becoming an issue. Eddie didn't want to redo his contract. They had Chris Brown. Eddie George got released. No goodbye press conference for Eddie George. Wasn't last night the way it should end? When you really think about it, when you forget about the here and now, when you think about the future of the franchise, whether or not the Nashville Predators beat the Carolina Hurricanes most likely isn't going to be about whether or not Pecorine plays really, really well. It's going to be about whether or not UC Saros can steal some games. That's what this is going to be. Last year, UC Saros got every start in the playoffs in the bubble. This year, barring an injury, Saros is going to get every start in the Carolina series. Don't you think last night was the way Pekka should go out? Now, I will be honest. I think it would be great. If something were to happen, you knock on wood, you hope nothing happens, but if Pecorine had to be thrust back into action and he won you the cup and there you go, yeah, it'd be great. isn't this the way it should end? Like, isn't this how you want to remember Pekka? Isn't this what you want Pekka night to be like? Because remember that even if he comes back next year, and again, I hope he does, but I'm realistic, he's probably not going to have a 30-save shutout to wrap up his career. Matt Duchene yesterday was politicking, it kind of felt like, in the post-game press conference for another Pekka send-off night. Here's what he said.
Yeah, I mean, it was incredible. He's a special guy. He could have 0 wins and 0 anything as a hockey player, and he's a special person. I think I've played about 100 games here now, and he's one of my favorite teammates I've ever had, and just a great person. And, I told him it's going to be awkward when he comes back next year and we do it again in game 82.
I mean, that sounds funny, but let's be real. Pekka's declining. He's not the same player he was 3 years ago. He's not the same player he was 4 years ago when he carried you to a Stanley Cup final. Pekka's probably going to want some money because, well, Pekka's made a lot of money, and normally guys that make a lot of money want to keep making money. Pekka's going to want to play. UC Saros is the clear number 1 goalie. Isn't this the way he was supposed to go out? I've had older people tell me. Obviously, I'm 31 years old, so I haven't experienced the idea of what it's like to be 75, 80, 85 years old, those kind of things. And I hope to live to be, 100 or whatever, but who knows? But they always tell me, if I'm going to be in a wheelchair and I can't move around and I can't enjoy life and I'm miserable all the time, and there have been people that said, you know what, it's just time for me at that point. And I don't know how, I think everybody's different in that regard. And I think the same can be said about this. There are some guys like Jaromir Jagr that just want to play forever and ever and ever and ever, and then finally someone has to stop giving them jobs and they'll stop playing. But I sit here now, I don't think Pekka's going to come back. I think Pekka has it pretty much mapped out what he wants. But there's a part of me that hears all the people that make these excuses about why they think Pekka should come back. And the only thing, every time I hear this about the reasons why Pekka should come back, it's really more their reasons as to why they want Pekka to come back, not so much why Pekka should come back for Pekka. And I just keep thinking about last night, and I said it when I opened the show. Last night was just as much for the fans as it was for him. Every fan cheering in that building was there to cheer for him, and every single thing he did last night and every save he made, I believe, was for them. Isn't that the way it should go out? Shouldn't it be better than how Steve McNair ended things as a Baltimore Raven? Shouldn't it be better than how Eddie George ended things as a Dallas Cowboy? We can't all be John Elway, win 2 Super Bowls and go hang it up, and that's that. But last night was special. Last night felt like Derek Jeter's walk-off hit in New York in his last game with the Yankees. It felt like Kobe Bryant's 60-point performance in his last game with the Lakers. It just felt right last night. And I think if you're Pekka, isn't that how you want the fans to remember you? So again, I want him back. And I know this isn't an unpopular opinion, but it just felt like last night was the right way to go out. And I do think that if I was in Pekka's shoes, that probably would matter to me. That I don't want to play next year and have a final game where we're not going to make the playoffs. The building is not full to the capacity allowed at the time. And I give up 4 goals and we lose to the San Jose Sharks. I'm not going to like that compared to last night where I'm literally skating around the ice and everybody is cheering my name. Sometimes there's a way to go out, and I think he did it. And so, again, I know that's an unpopular opinion, Caroline, but he did it. And that's where I would just say, hey, that's how I felt about last night. I watched last night and say he's not coming back.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I bring it back to a conversation that we had earlier in the week last week. I don't remember what it was, but about Albert Pujols, about how the Angels are not going to renew his contract. And
Sure.
It just felt, whenever he left St. Louis, it just felt like, his career is only going to go downhill. Now, if he would have retired after St. Louis was not going to renew his contract, he would have retired a St. Louis legend. He would have been a Cardinals Hall of Famer. He would have been an MLB Hall of Famer first ballot as soon as he was eligible.
Well, but that would have been stupid. That would have been giving away $253 million.
I know he was making.
I ain't giving away no $250 million.
He was making a ton of money, but I mean, in the fact of like retiring with the team that you've been with.
Yeah, but no one's going to retire like 32.
Well, he wasn't. He was going downhill,
Yeah,
and that's
but
what we've
again-
seen with the Angels when he's been there for the past 10 years.
Again, my argument to that is, you don't want to get released in the middle of the season like he got released with the Angels. But, I mean, Albert Pujols was in his prime. Pekka's not. Pekka's 38 years old. He's not in his prime anymore. I mean, this is not, the Pujols thing, I think, is honestly, I mean, that's out there, man.
Well, the theory
That's out there.
of continuing, I think Pujols was past his prime at that point. So continuing past
Wasn't
your
he
prime.
World Series? No, David Freese was World
David
Series
Freese,
MVP.
World Series MVP.
But didn't he had like Babe Ruth level stats in that World Series?
Well, if he was still in his prime, then the St. Louis Cardinals would not have turned him away. And of course, his contract was massive,
$250 million?
and he made a ton of money. But I'm saying to the point of just leaving a team and going to another team.
Man, that's out there. That's a hot take.
I'm not saying that Pekka Rinne and Albert Pujols are the same person, but I'm saying in theory the fact of leaving a
Well, yeah,
team
but
where you spent your entire
that's going
career.
out where you're the best player in the sport. That would be like Tom Brady walking away right now, but maybe even like Tom Brady walking away after the Falcons' Super Bowl comeback. No, that's a hot take. That is a take, man. That is, and I like hot takes. So there's that. But I mean, again, he's declining. I mean, Pekka's declining. Like legitimately, right now he's a backup. He's a backup, and I still think he's got a little left in the tank. But I don't want to see him, to your point about Albert Pujols, I don't want to see him like Albert Pujols, where Albert's got nothing in the tank, and it's like, hey, it's a random Friday in May, and we're just going to release you.
And it's sad. It's not how you want to see him go out, and that's the same thing with Pekka. You don't want to see him going out, sitting on the bench an entire season.
615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. So I knew some people weren't going to like it. We'll get your thoughts on that. Plus, there is something that happened last night that I do think is a big deal and worth talking about, and we will get to that next as well. We're live from the wholesaling studio, powered by RumbleOn.com. TriStar Moving. And by the way, let me just stay over there. If Pekka retires to turn down $250 million, we're going to have a talk, because $250 million is $250 million. I don't care how old you are, or I don't know, $250 million.
I would take $250 million. I mean, it doesn't matter how old you are.
Yeah, $250 million is a lot of money. TriStar Moving. You know those guys take great care of you when you move. They're my official movers. In fact, we moved recently, and when I did, I used TriStar Moving because I needed somebody I could rely on. And I'm telling you, you can rely on them. Everything is taken care of. They take all the stress out of moving. And as I've said many times, I hate moving. And I think most people hate moving. But when you roll with TriStar, they take care of everything. They took care of all of my furniture. They take care of both houses. So the house we left and the house we went to, no scratches on the floors, no messes with the door, nothing. It was fantastic. TriStar Moving has a brand new state-of-the-art storage facility located in Mount Juliet. So if you needed that, there you go. If you're looking to move, give my friends at TriStar Moving a call, 615-640-1219, or visit their website at nationalmoving.org/radio. They'll give you 5% off your entire move. That's TriStar Moving, 615-640-1219, or visit them nationalmoving.org/radio. TriStar Moving, my official movers.
Trennan down in the left wing corner, pulled up to the half wall by Duchesne. Now Goodbranson feeds it outside. Johansson tipped in front, and the puck is slipped into the net by Matt Duchesne. The Predators take a 2-0 lead.
It goes to Duchesne off to the side of the net, and he does a beautiful walk the dog all the way around Mrazek and puts it in on the back post on the backhand.
I know last night's game didn't count standings-wise, or I guess it did count for the standings, but it did not affect the playoffs or the seeding or anything like that. 2 goals for Matt Duchesne. And let me say this, I think it's a good sign. Ian, I think you said it best. You said you were listening to the Carolina radio a little bit last night, and they were not very happy about Matt Duchesne scoring.
That is correct. They made a mention. Well, it was, to be fair, it was the highlights of their video, the TV. Just rewatched some of the highlights from the Carolina feed, and they mentioned that was who they did not want to see scoring was Matt Duchesne and Ryan Johansson.
It's like one of those things in baseball where there's a lineup, and then there's a guy's like, coming into the ball game, Barry Bonds is 0 for his last 13, and he hasn't hit a home run in 3 weeks. And you're like, okay, now hopefully he will stay how he is now, because we know that guy's not going to be that way for forever. Now, with Duchesne and Johansson, I think a lot of us are worried that they may be that way for forever. But you get those guys going in the playoffs, specifically Duchesne, you get those guys going in the playoffs, it makes it a lot different series. And I wonder if those 2 goals last night for Duchesne, again, how much do you take away from a series where the outcome, or a game where the outcome doesn't really matter that much, and neither side is playing anywhere near an NHL full roster? I don't know. You get Matt Duchesne going, we got a totally different series on our hands with Carolina. If all of a sudden, now hold up, Matt Duchesne is starting to put the puck in the net. You saw what he did when he was in Columbus and he had that great walk year. And he, I think, was probably one of the better players in that series where they swept Tampa Bay. And I'm not saying that all of a sudden Matt Duchesne's going to do it. I'm just saying I thought this when they benched him last week, which was they need him. I know everybody's mad at him. I know everybody doesn't like the idea that Matt Duchesne got paid all this money and hasn't done a whole lot. They need him. You can't beat Carolina without him. I mean, the names on that team that Carolina's got, you're not beating them because Rocco Grimaldi. You can do that with Detroit. You're not doing that with Carolina. Let's get to your phone. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Trevor is going to join us. I have a bone to pick, by the way, with Trevor. 615-737-1025. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Chris is up next on Pekka Rinne. Thank you for calling the show. Go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Jared. Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying about Pekka. I'm in the boat where I just want him to do whatever is going to make him happy. I wouldn't be surprised whatever he does. But the thing is that, he is one of the most fierce competitors you could ever see in the world of sports. And so looking at what he's done, he's had a great career. He's made it to the finals. He's won a Vezina. He's done everything but what? Win a cup. And the thing is that, yes, who would not want to win a cup? And I'm sure he'd be happy if he came back next year or for some off chance they won it this year. But there's probably something in his mind where it's going to be like, you know what? It's not as sweet being a backup goalie and winning a cup. And so sure. I just don't think he's going to be back, and so, but I want him to do whatever he's going to make him happy because he's as a fan, he's made me happy for over the years that I've been watching him. So that's all I got to say.
Some people are just so excited to win a championship that it doesn't matter to them. Thank you for the call. That it doesn't matter to them, how they win it one way or another. But, like, if Derrick Henry, for example, doesn't win a Super Bowl with the Titans, and then Derrick signs a contract to go to Pittsburgh, and he is the backup running back at Pittsburgh, and he gets 1 carry in the Super Bowl and they win, I'm sure Derrick will be happy, but it probably won't feel the same to Derrick Henry as if Derrick Henry won the Super Bowl. I mean, Blaine Gabbert won the Super Bowl last year. So I think there's probably an element of that where, Pekka wanting to complete his career, if they knock off the Winnipeg Jets and they win the Cup and he wins the Vezina that year, there you go. It's all set. You were the man. You did it. And I think the one thing that we keep forgetting about is what he puts himself through. I mean, it's hard making sacrifices, in my opinion. It's hard It's hard. It's hard to make the sacrifices for any pro athlete. It's really hard to do it at his age and the level of commitment that he's got. So the idea of asking him to sacrifice for less money, the same amount of sacrificing, the same amount of hard work, probably even more hard work because of his age, more hard work, he's got to dedicate himself even more, and then you're going to say, hey, I want you to play like, when we play a Thursday night game and follow it up with a Friday night game, we want you to play that. It's hard for guys to do. Guys like Jay Cutler, they don't want to go be backups. Now, I'm not saying Pekka's Jay Cutler. I'm just saying guys that are starting quarterbacks and have made starting quarterback money, they don't want to go be backups. Now, if you want another shot at it, you think you're in the middle of your career a la Ryan Tannehill, you'll probably go do it. But my guess is when Aaron is done, wherever Aaron ends up being done, Aaron's not going to hold the clipboard for somebody else. And I don't think we can ask Pekka to do something similar. We'll take a little football breather here. We got a ton of hockey still to get to today. Hal Gill going to join us later on the show. And I will say I have written down, in my opinion, the top 5 moments or the top 5 things Pekka Rinne has accomplished with the Predators, so we'll get to that.
Cool.
But I've got a bone to pick. I have a bone to pick. Trevor Maddich will join us next, ESPN college football analyst. Stillman Company, it's ESPN 1025 The Game, and we're streaming on the Game Nashville app. Stillman Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 1025 The Game. I love this time of year as far as football news is concerned, because now that the draft is over, it's like one big story becomes a week-long story. We touched on this yesterday, and I had a college coach reach out to me. Tim Tebow to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Your opinion on Tim Tebow going to Jacksonville to be a tight end 9 years after he hasn't played in the NFL tells me all I need to know. If you think this is a good idea or a bad idea, it tells me all I need to know about your football opinion. Now, I value Trevor Maddich's football opinion. So Trevor joins us now, brought to you by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters, live from 3rd and Home in Germantown. Trev, I'm going to ask you, do you like Urban Meyer signing Tim Tebow to play tight end, a position he's never played before?
I am fine with it from a standpoint of trying out. I don't think they'll put him on the team if he doesn't show that he can contribute. But I think he's got a chance to contribute.
Oh.
He's a great athlete. He's stayed in tremendous shape. They would only use him to do the things that he would do well. And my guess is that he'd be really good on special teams. He'd be a really good move tight end. So they put him at H, they'd move him in motion, put him around, have him block in space, that kind of a thing, catch a few passes, not necessarily be a big, deep threat, but certainly that kind of a mix. The thing he'll have to overcome, though, is that they got a bunch of guys on that roster right now that played tight end in college and in the NFL. And he's coming in, just like you said, being brand new. So he'll have to show that he can perform better than those guys, because the problem that Urban Meyer will have is that everybody on the team will know who the top 3 tight ends are. And if you create a spot for an H-back/fullback, they'll know who those top 4 guys are. And if it's clear to them that Tebow is not one of the 4 that will help them win the most, then before they ever play a football game, the players in that locker room will not trust their new head coach, Urban Meyer. So Meyer, I think, has a chance to have a guy here who can help in the short term. But if he can't better than the other guys, it won't just be, well, gee, we have a guy on the roster that's not that good. It will be a matter of credibility in the locker room.
Oh, Trev, you're killing me.
Yep.
I mean, here's
Why am
my
I
thing.
killing you, Jared?
Because I learned everything I need to know about Urban Meyer in the NFL with this news. Like, that taught me all. The guy, he has no idea what he's doing. He thinks I remember when Steve Spurrier and was coaching at Washington, and he got Danny Warfel back together, and he got, Anthony Rydell and Jacques Green, and he got all his Florida guys. But, hey, at least to their credit, Jacques Green was a wide receiver in the NFL. Danny Warfel was a quarterback playing quarterback. Urban, I don't know what Urban's thinking. I don't. I mean, this is a joke. And if you're Urban Meyer, you want to go into Jacksonville and you want people to think that you're not a joke. And the easiest way, it's like, what can I do that can just tarnish any credibility that I have or don't have, because I've never coached in the NFL before, and I'm trying to prove to my roster that I'm not some college ball coach that's going to do something very college-like. And then he goes and signs Tim Tebow to play tight end? Oh, my goodness. If I was a Jacksonville Jaguar today, I'd be embarrassed. If I was a tight end on that team, I'd be embarrassed. I'd be like, oh, my God, my coach. Oh, God, I'm so sorry. Hey, look, he's new. He's new around here. He doesn't. He's my coach. Oh, my goodness, Trevor. Tebow can't catch. They showed some gimmick play today on SportsCenter where Mark Sanchez threw him the ball, and it hit him in the head. He can't catch, and they're going to put him at tight end? Oh, my goodness. Oh, and it's embarrassing, too, Trev. It's embarrassing for Tebow. It was embarrassing when he went to baseball. This is another level of embarrassing. And
No, absolutely not. Because this is a try it and see if it works. And if it works, there's a lot of things that could be good. First of all, I would see your point if Urban Meyer had drafted Justin Fields, quarterback out of Ohio State, rather than Trevor Lawrence, quarterback out of Clemson, with the first pick, right? Because Justin Fields, Ryan Day took over at Ohio State for Urban Meyer. He would know everything there is to know about Justin Fields. And if he's a Buckeye through and through, Day would tell him he would know everything he needs to know. And he could take his Buckeye and start his Jaguars career with a Buckeye. But he didn't do that. He took the Clemson Tiger. Now, if you have Tim Tebow, if he does make the team, if he can, hang on to the bottom of the roster and contribute in some way. You also have the potential of having a roster spot available to you that wouldn't have been, because he could be your third quarterback. He could be your Taysom Hill. He could be the guy that if the starter gets hurt, now all of a sudden you've got the backup is the starter, and if he gets hurt, who's your third quarterback in that game, right? Tebow could at least go in and run some semblance of an offense while you get some other guys coming in to play quarterback for you. So that would save a roster spot if Urban Meyer is inclined to keep three quarterbacks on the team. But it's a roster spot where you've got your third quarterback also covering kickoffs like Taysom Hill, also running the Wildcat like Taysom Hill. And unlike Taysom Hill, he'll be out there blocking at a more regular level on the offense in certain packages. So I think this has the possibility of being completely rational. But it all depends on whether Tim Tebow can go and earn the job, not to the satisfaction of Urban Meyer, but to the satisfaction of those other guys in that locker room. If he can do that, Jared, I see it totally different from you. I don't think it would be nuts. I think it would actually be a pretty darn good move.
I have to be honest with you. You keep saying if he can do this. What makes us think he can do that? He hasn't played football in 9 years. You do realize the last time Tim Tebow played football in the NFL, Floyd Reese was still the senior and football advisor, second in command of the New England Patriots. Like, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, that's fair. That is really fair. And that's one of the things he'll just have to overcome. Because if he would have done this earlier in his NFL career when everybody was begging him from afar to move to tight end or move to H-back, and he wouldn't do it. He wanted to play quarterback. And then when that didn't work out, he went off to play baseball, right? Well, he might be Taysom Hill before Taysom Hill became Taysom Hill, who's the quarterback / all the rest of it for the New Orleans Saints, and he's still there, and everybody loves him. So, yeah, that is a big detriment right there. That's a big deal. The fact that he hasn't been in the league for so long. So now what do you do? There's another thing that's a problem, and that is that Tim Tebow's a lightning rod. He's very open about his social views, his religious views, and there are a lot of people who don't like that. And that automatically can possibly become a distraction in the locker room, not because he'd do something bad in the locker room, he wouldn't, but because outside people who want to make a point on Tim Tebow's fame might end up creating a problem in there. There's another problem. Is Tim Tebow the biggest personality in the place, or is it going to be your quarterback, Trevor Lawrence? Now, I don't think Trevor Lawrence would have a problem with Tim Tebow or feel threatened by him. He certainly wouldn't be as a quarterback on the field, but as a leader in the locker room, that's one of the things people say about Tebow. Bring him in because he's a great locker room guy. Well, you want your locker room guy to be your quarterback, if at all possible, and everybody else secondary to that. So these are all things where chemistry in that locker room matter, too. But that's why I say if he can do it, Jared, if he can do it, because we don't know if he can do it, but we don't know if Caleb Farley, the first-round draft choice of the Titans, can play with his surgically repaired back. We don't know if he can do it. We don't know if Dylan Radin can come in and play offensive line for this team. We have to see it. They have to work out. They have to show that they earn a spot on that team and a spot on on playing time. Tebow's the same way. Tebow's exactly the same way. He has to show that he can earn a spot. And if he can't, then all bets are off. But I'm not saying that he's going to come in and excel. I'm saying that if he can come in and show that he can contribute, there's a lot of reasons why it's a good move. And by the way, if you don't like it, then good. You're a Titans guy. You must love it that the Jaguars would have a guy that you don't think can beat the Titans.
Let me say this. I love it. Let me tell you why I love it. Because I think it shows me that Urban Meyer can't do this job. I mean, I think that it tells me Urban Meyer is not going to be a good NFL head coach. Trevor, put me on record right now. If Urban Meyer does anything in Jacksonville, I mean, if he gets to the playoffs in 5 years in Jacksonville, you can come on the show and just rip my rear end to shreds. I think I was very skeptical of Urban Meyer, and you know Urban, and I don't know Urban at all. Urban comes off as with the personality of not being easy to get along with. Is that fair?
Urban does things Urban's way, and you will adjust to him, yes.
Okay. In the NFL, it's not as easy in college as getting everybody to adjust to you. Fair?
Totally true. Yep,
okay.
Totally fair.
Okay.
Because they're not, in the NFL, they're not, 19-year-old unguided missiles coming straight from high school that think that you're Superman as the head coach of a college football program, and they'll do whatever you say because you say it. In the NFL, you have to convince them that you're right. You can't just say, do it because I say so.
Nick Saban is the greatest college coach in the history of college football. And he had this problem in the NFL, and he had at least coached in the NFL. Urban has never coached in the NFL. So I'm already skeptical of Urban being able to come in and make the jump from college to the pros and act like Urban and get results. And Urban doesn't get to bring in the best roster every year, although he did get the best draft picks this year. Now you go out and you sign Tim Tebow, who hasn't played football in 9 years. That tells me all I need to know about Urban. Like everything that I kind of thought, like I had hypothesized, like I don't think Urban's going to be able to do this job because this ain't college football. Then Urban goes out and signs Tim Tebow. I've seen all I need. Case closed. Move it on. Next docket. Let's go. And so, Trevor, I give you full authority that if Urban Meyer ends up winning in Jacksonville, you can rip my rear end. But I just think this is embarrassing for everybody. I think it's embarrassing for Urban. I think it's embarrassing for Jacksonville. I think it's so embarrassing and beneath Tebow. And I also think it's kind of embarrassing for the NFL. I just think it's bad.
None of those things. No, none of those things, Jared. Urban Meyer, I think, is going to be an outstanding coach in the NFL. He's smart enough to not go rolling in there thinking that he already knows everything he needs to know. Guys like Nick Saban that Urban Meyer knows. Steve Spurrier, who came into the NFL and did not have a good experience with the Washington football franchise as a professional, he knows him. He knows all these guys that came in and did well and those that didn't. He's going to ask them, what the pitfalls are and what they wish they would have known when they first came in. I don't think he's going to be the same Urban Meyer exactly, but here's the thing, though. Urban Meyer is a master at leadership, and not just top-down leadership, but bottom-up leadership in finding those leaders in the locker room and actually teaching them the techniques of leadership, putting them in seminars, getting them mentors so that they have actual leadership skills, not just a natural leadership knack. Leadership is the biggest thing. Can you get these guys to do the best that they can possibly do? And Urban excels at that. You talk about Nick Saban going to the Miami Dolphins. Part of the reason he didn't succeed there was because he thought he would have a certain amount of control over the roster. He got there and found out he didn't have what they promised him. And he didn't go well, and he bugged out. He's like, look, if I'm not going to have the ability to do it, the choices, then fine. Steve Spurrier goes to Washington, and we didn't really realize at the time what an utter caustic mess the chance there. So we look at him as a failure in the NFL, but I look at him now as a guy that never really had a chance in the NFL. Urban Meyer's going to have the chance because he wouldn't have gone to Jacksonville unless they convinced him that he would be the guy in control in the way that Nick Saban and Steve Spurrier thought they would be, but turned out that they weren't.
Oh, my goodness, Trevor. Trevor, I love you. I do.
Yeah.
Oh, I
well,
so
you know
disagree.
what? I'm going to go shopping for a line of belts, 2x4s, a baseball bat with barbed wire wrapped around the end. You can pick it because I'm going to use it.
Oh, my goodness. Hey, if Urban works out in the NFL, I will be stunned. I will be shocked. Oh, my goodness. Trevor Maddox is our guest. Coming up next, there was an important signing in the AFC South that's not Tim Tebow. I want Trevor's thoughts on it, both on kind of the injury front and, the practicality front and how I feel like everybody at ESPN right now seems to be treating the Titans. And a big transfer in the SEC. Henry To'oTo'o goes to Alabama. What's Trevor think? That's all coming up next. Trevor Maddox is brought to you by Houston Clinic Orthopedics. When experience matters. Stillman Company. It's ESPN 102.5 The Game. Trevor Matich is with us, ESPN college football analyst, brought to you by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. Trev, we went over the kind of the splashy signing, Tebow likely in Jacksonville, but the Indianapolis Colts yesterday signed Eric Fisher, the left tackle, former number 1 overall pick from the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, Fisher tore his Achilles in the AFC Championship game, and that was a big loss for the Chiefs in the Super Bowl that they didn't have either tackle. Now, apparently they say he should be ready to go by September. I want your thoughts on this because I looked at Tebow in the second round out of Vanderbilt, and you're thinking, okay, like they're going to shore up the pass rush, but what about left tackle? They signed Eric Fisher. What do you think about that Achilles injury for a guy that size? You played offensive line for the Colts. What do you think of kind of Indianapolis solving that issue at left tackle?
I think that's a good one because it's a yes or a no. They also signed some other guys, really lesser-known guys, to come in and compete. And so if that Achilles does not hold up for Fisher, they still will at least have bodies there. Then they can hopefully address it. Maybe they can get Isaiah Wilson. Who knows? Switch him over to the left side. See if he doesn't go to as many crazy parties if he's playing left tackle instead of right.
Sure.
But I think this makes them tremendously better because Anthony Costanzo retiring left a massive gaping hole on that left side. Other than that, the offensive line for the Colts is really good. But the thing about Eric Fisher is if he's healthy, he's an upgrade from Costanzo. He's better at creating holes in the running game. Costanzo would match up with you, doesn't really push you anywhere, whereas Fisher can actually move people better than Costanzo. And he's a fit for the way they like to run their passing offense. I mean, most of the time, you'll have left tackles set back on a pass play, on most pass plays, where he is soft in his set. He'll set back, let the pass rusher come upfield, and then engage him, right? The Colts, more often than not, will have the left tackle jump out and engage him right at or near the line of scrimmage, like every pass play is a 3-step drop. And Fisher's really good at that. I mean, really good at that. So that's another thing that's really good. So I think that this will be, as long as he can stay healthy, a huge upgrade for the Colts and a reason that the Titans defenders should really worry about the potential of this offense because if he is healthy and a good fit there at left tackle, this Colts offense has the potential to be one of the better ones in the National Football League.
So how does that Achilles injury affect a guy that size at his age?
You know what? It's a yes or no. It's really pass or fail. If you've got a smaller guy who's quick twitch, who sticks it in the ground and bam, off he goes at a million different angles, then that Achilles could be a problem. But for a guy his size and his age, it's either going to hold together or it's not. He's not going to be that dynamic guy in space. He's going to be cutting at a variety of different angles. Everything's going to be pretty much what he expects it to be. Whether it's a run block or a pass block, he's initiating it. He's not responding to it. And when you look at offensive line, even though it's incredibly physical, most of the time the guy on the other side of the ball is trying to get away from him. Engage initially and then get away from him. So that'll help the Achilles too. I would say this, though. Here's where the weakness is. When you watch Eric Fisher against power rushers, he tends to get pushed back into the quarterback more often than he should. He doesn't drop anchor all that well. And bringing in a guy like a Bud Dupree, who's a massive linebacker, right? You've got some size coming off the edges that the Titans can bring. That's the first thing I would do if I were them, is test the Achilles in terms of its strength and test his ability to drop anchor, which he never really has had. And I would make my first move against that guy a power move all the time. And they might not need to go to any other move.
Trevor Matich is our guest, ESPN college football analyst. Are you a believer in both pick the Titans to win the AFC South? Mike Greenberg and Berger McFarland picked the Colts. And I'm convinced that the reason people don't like the Titans nationally is they don't believe in Tannehill. I mean, you can code it or say it however you want, but I think I just don't believe in Tannehill. And I don't know, Darlington and Tannenbaum both believe in Tannehill a lot, especially, obviously, Tannenbaum, who, lost his job because Tannehill couldn't stay healthy. Do you buy that Indianapolis has passed the Titans?
No, I do not buy that. They need to stay healthy, especially at wide receiver. Berkshire at tight end is going to have to really step up and be a weapon because in losing Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith, Tannehill lost about half of his receiving yardage, right? And so some guys are going to have to either step up or at least stay healthy. And then underneath, you're going to have some of those receivers, Robinson, some of those other guys, will have to step up and fill the role as number 2 and 3 and be effective at receiver, right? But from the standpoint of this team and the way it's set up, I like the Titans right now, and I like their defense more than most people do. Jared, I think that most people that I've heard talk about why they like the Colts over the Titans, they refer to the Titans' defense, how bad it was last year, and then all the guys they lost in the secondary. But I think in free agency, they brought in enough guys to improve markedly, especially along the front seven. And they've got to stay healthy at corner. But if Caleb Farley at corner can play well right from the start, and if he can stay healthy, these are all big ifs, you might be better at corner with Jenkins on one side and Farley on the other than you were last year with the guys that they ended up letting go. So I like the Titans' defense better than other people do, which is why I like the Titans to win the division. Now, when I say I like the Titans' defense, I don't think it's going to be a brick wall of a defense.
Sure.
All it has to do is improve from heinous to decent, right? And if it can do that, and I think it will, then I think this Titans team can do what it's been doing for the last several years.
Trevor Matich is our guest. Henry Toa transfers from Tennessee to Alabama. A lot of Tennessee fans seem to be upset about that, this idea you don't transfer to your rival. I hear that, and I say, welcome to 2021, babe. What do you think of Henry Toa leaving Tennessee and going to the arch rival Alabama Crimson Tide?
Ain't it great for Alabama? I mean, and for all the people that hate Alabama. Alabama is legitimately number one, and they'll probably win the national championship again this year. They are reloading. They're so good, even with all those guys they lost to the NFL. 6 guys in the first round, for goodness sake. They're still going to have the most talented roster. And now Toa goes there, who's a playmaking linebacker, who will be, he'll be able to do things at Alabama that he wasn't going to be able to do at Tennessee because of the defensive line in front of him and the secondary behind him. And so I think for him it's great. For Saban it's awesome. For Tennessee it's horrible. I mean, horrible. They lose him to Alabama, and he'll probably start there this year. They lost 3 guys to Oklahoma, who is another team that's probably going to make the playoff and has a chance to win the national championship. And all 3 will probably start in Oklahoma. And so all this going on with Tennessee, these guys that they were so excited about, Tennessee fans, that are now gone on to not just other teams, but other national championship contenders that could have been wearing orange, right? And that's just horrible. And then you talk about going to the rival. It's the cross-division rival. It's one thing to go to a team in your own conference or even division. This is your cross-division rival. And I will say this, for Tennessee, Alabama is a huge rival, right? How much of a rival for Alabama is Tennessee, Jared?
Oh, I mean, I think that, like, the longtime Alabama fans will always enjoy beating Tennessee. I think if you're, like, a recent Alabama fan, I mean, it's like playing Vanderbilt.
Yeah, and so it's like if your girlfriend leaves you and then takes up with your friend, and then she doesn't care if you get a new girlfriend, if you don't get a new girlfriend, she absolutely doesn't care. That's what this is like. It'd be one thing if Alabama felt like they had done something to Tennessee, but Alabama, I don't think, feels like they did anything to Tennessee. Tennessee feels like they're slighted, and they're all alone in that. And that, I think, is the insult added to the injury.
Trevor Matich, ESPN college football analyst, as presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. Trev, we will talk next week.
All right. I'll talk to you then, Jared. Thanks, man.
Yep, Trevor Matich joining us on the program. And I will say this again. Henry Toa transfers from Alabama to Tennessee. Tennessee fans are like, you never transfer to your rival. You mean you wouldn't have taken Jalen Hurts if he had said, hey, I'd like to go to Tennessee? You wouldn't have been okay with that? You weren't okay with, I don't know, Alvin Kamara, who transferred from Alabama to Tennessee. You don't like that now, do you? No, okay. Welcome to 2021, people. 2021, where nobody truly signs with the school. Nobody signs. They don't even sign with the coach. They sign with what I think the coach told me he's going to do for me. And then if he doesn't do it, I'm leaving. And if the coach changes, I'm leaving. And if it's I change and I do, whatever it is. Come on now. I mean, like.
I'm happy for him.
Henry To'oTo'o?
Yeah.
He's allowed to do whatever he wants.
He can do whatever he wants, and it gives him the best opportunity to win. And I'm sorry to volunteer fans that don't want to hear that, but he's a good player, and he deserves to go where he can win.
I mean, I'm just telling you. It gets me every time. Coming up next, Pekka Rinne last night, maybe, one of the best maybe send-offs I've ever seen. But with all the success the Predators have had this season, there's one message I took away from last night that the Predators are probably going to have to learn, and I hope it's not the hard way. That's next, Stillman Company. Right here, it's ESPN 102.5 The Game, third and home, where the Sounds kick off their home opener against the Memphis Redbirds tonight. It's ESPN 102.5 The Game. Stillman Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 102.5 The Game. Caroline Fenton here. We are live at third in home in Germantown, right next to First Horizon Park. In fact, the patio out here literally overlooks left field, where the Nashville Sounds will kick off their home season against the Memphis Redbirds tonight. You can hear that game on ESPN 94.9, and tickets are available, 40% capacity, Jeff Him told us, but that next week it'll be about 100%. So get excited.
I am excited, and it is a really cool view here.
It's a cool view.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Sounds games. I used to always think that Sounds games, we were talking about this last week, I think
Right.
Sounds games is the best date in Nashville. Best date spot in Nashville.
It's a cheap date, and it just gives you something to talk about.
You've never been to a Sounds game before.
Well, I haven't, but I can assume that it's a cheap date, and I know what you do at baseball games. You talk about baseball games.
Not so much. The girls that I used to date really don't like baseball very much, but that's neither here nor there, and that's why I don't date them anymore. But I always think there's like lessons to be learned from things. And Pekka Rinne last night had an unbelievable send-off, and kind of the elephant in the room. Hal Gill's going to join us in 30 minutes. Hal obviously played in front of Pekka. We'll get his thoughts on last night, but the elephant in the room with Pekka, right, is that even though he is the icon of the franchise, he's the greatest player in the history of the Nashville Predators, the uncomfortable element to this is that he is no longer the number one goalie of the team. He is no longer the bedrock as Peter Moore. I mean, he is in a sentimental way, but they're not going to win or lose the Carolina series most likely based upon how Pekka Rinne plays. If things go to plan, Pekka Rinne will not play in the Carolina series. But I think there's something that I think the Predators need to be aware of, and I think they are, but I wonder if the fans are aware. You know, young people today, and I can say that now because I'm 31 years old, so before I was 30, I shouldn't.
Back in my day.
Back in my day, young people today have their parents do everything for them. Now, I'm not perfect in that regard either. I mean, there's some things that I just rather my parents just, I got issues with my dishwasher, and I have to get a new one, and, I don't like picking out dishwashers, so I just told my mom, go pick out a dishwasher. But young people today have their parents do everything.
Well,
and
on behalf of young people.
I'm just saying. Most young, I would say it is an alarming trend of how many young people just have their parents do everything for them.
Oh, that's pretty fair. I would say a majority.
It is an alarming trend. And at some point that catches up to you. At some point you have to figure out how to do things. You got to figure out how to do them for yourself. It doesn't come back, and I don't think Pekka is going to come back. If Pekka doesn't come back, then he's not going to be there to do that for you next year. This thing was going down the tubes, really going down the tubes. They go on that road trip. David Poyle says in the midday show asks him, David, are you buying or are you selling? And he said, I think I'd like to wait out the road trip and then decide. UC Saros got hurt right before they went on that road trip. They went to Carolina, and they lost in overtime, but they got a point. Pekka Rinne, 32 out of 35 saves. Then they lose a couple. They lose to Carolina. They lose to Tampa Bay. We still think the season's a mess. More guys are getting hurt. When they went on that road trip, David had said, hey, this is the road trip that's going to prove whether or not we're, going to buy or sell or do whatever. And Ryan Ellis got hurt. Matt Duchene got hurt. UC Saros got hurt. Ian, somebody else got hurt. Was it Johansson?
I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look.
It was Yossi. Yossi got hurt.
In the Dallas game.
Yep, Yossi got hurt. So now all these guys, you're trying to save your season. Luke Cunning's hurt. Matt Duchene's hurt. Roman Yossi's hurt. Ryan Ellis is hurt. UC Saros is hurt. Good luck. They played a Monday afternoon game against Tampa. Pekka Rinne, 38-39. They go to Dallas in a shootout win. Hey, how important were the wins against Dallas this year? 27 of 30. They play Chicago. Hey, how important were the Chicago wins this year? 27 of 29 for Pekka Rinne. He got one more start the rest of the way on a Saturday night against Tampa Bay, who might just end up winning the Stanley Cup. And they lost 3-0, and I thought he played okay in that game. And then he played last night. The truth is Pekka Rinne is equally as responsible for the turnaround of this season as anybody else on the team, including UC Saros is. Because all that great work UC Saros did when he came back from injury doesn't mean anything if Pekka doesn't get you those points at Carolina, Tampa Bay, Dallas, and Chicago. That road trip that was going to make or break your season, when half of your team was on the injured list, Pekka Rinne carried you through. And this is the lesson in life that the Predators are going to have to understand, or the Predators are going to have to operate by next year. Now, I think they know, because John Hines talked yesterday before the game about how important Pekka was in the turnaround this season. And Sean Henry came on our show yesterday and talked about how important Pekka was in the turnaround. So I think they know. But do we all understand that here's this great Predators run, and people are going to say, hey, who's responsible for it? What did they do? What did they not do? I said yesterday in the 5 reasons that I thought they had made the playoffs, I said the second reason was goaltending.
Not just UC Soros.
Not just UC Soros. Thank you. I mean, yes. Like, it was goaltending because Pekka Rinne was very much a part of that. Now, again, I'm going to be honest because that's the best quality. Pekka Rinne cannot play every night anymore. He can't play on a Tuesday, take the day off, and get your best effort on a Thursday. It was too apparent this year when he was asked to do so. But there was a game in Florida that they won in overtime. They were down 2-0 late. They made the move at the start of the third period. They took Saros out of the game, a notorious slow starter. They took Saros out of the game. They put Pekka in the third period. Pekka was awesome in the third period and overtime, and the Predators won the game. And we thought, you know what, maybe this is going to turn them around. Now, it didn't, but every point was valuable when you finish where the Predators finish. They're not going to have the luxury of that this upcoming season. If next season, if Pekka's not here, and UC Saros is the number 1 starter, and he has a slow start like he did this past year, like he did in 2019, like he did in 2018, like he did in the bubble in Arizona. If Saros gets off to a slow start, there is not a second option. At some point, your parents can't do everything for you. And I just think that that's the one thing we need to take away from is, hey, yes, Pekka, and again, I want Pekka to come back. And I think a lot of people want Pekka to come back, but I think that's probably wishful thinking at this point. But let's just know that if he's gone, I feel comfortable, Caroline, with the idea of, knock on wood, if something happens to UC Saros in the playoffs, they can turn around and put Pekka in against Carolina, and I feel like you still got a pretty good chance to win.
After watching him last night, absolutely. And I know that wasn't the upper echelon of Carolina players, but just the way that Pekka Rinne looked last night, yes, he looked great. I would absolutely feel comfortable putting him in there in the playoffs. But the question is, what are you going to do next year when UC Saros is hurt? Or whenever he goes on a decline? Who is going to be there to pick up the slack when Pekka Rinne is not there?
And I think there was a mental element, too, to Pekka getting these guys back into it. Ian, if we've got it, there was a report that came out that the Predators were that everything was on the table. Even Forsberg was on the table, that only Josi, Ellis, and Pekka were off the table. And that day, I asked Pekka about it when that report came out. The Predators were supposed to have practice, and I told the Predators people, I said, hey, I need to talk to probably a senior member of the team because you're not going to ask Matthew Olivier about, hey, this Elliot Friedman report came out. Pekka was the one who talked. Here's what Pekka said at that time when things were looking pretty bad.
Yeah, Pekka, it was reported by Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet that the team is considering selling off pieces. You're one of the 3 untouchables, according to his report, along with Roman and Ryan. How does the idea of the team deciding to sell ahead of the trade deadline make you feel?
I mean, I don't really give a lot of value to that kind of reporting. I don't know. I really don't know how to answer. As a player, I mean, obviously I want us to build off from that win in Columbus, and obviously the fact is that we got to play better, and it's a short season. Every single game is such a crucial game, and I don't know. I don't know what to answer that. I don't really give too much thought things like that. I think the trade rumors and things like that, they are always present as in a pro athlete's life. So, I think it's my strong recommendation to all of us players not to look into that too deeply.
It's a very calming message, right? Like, hey, I think we can still turn this around. I don't look into the reports right there. I think as a pro athlete, those things are always kind of. It was a very calm message. You're not going to have that next year if he's not back. You're not going to have the Saros is out, season's falling apart, 38-39 at Tampa Bay. You're not going to have that next year. So that's just one thing that I noticed, about Pekka. And I want Pekka to come back. I do. But I get nervous thinking about life after Pekka in that regard of what all he did to save this season.
Do you think that there would be somebody in Pekka's absence? Do you think the team would start to feel that kind of that almost like father figure calming presence? Do you think that there would be somebody on this team that could step up and fill that role if he's gone?
No, and that's kind of the tough part here is that it's like that thing where you say to yourself, okay, going back to my knock on young people, which apparently somebody else named Caroline apparently is not very happy about either. But if, like if something happens to your parents, you're not just going to go get another parent that then, does things.
Well,
you know
I
what
think
I mean?
that's a little bit different.
But in this case, do I think the Predators can go out and get a backup goalie who can save a season like I feel like Pekka Rinne was very much a part of saving this year? I don't. And that's a tribute to him. That's a tribute to him. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Coming up next, I have my 5, and this was hard to do. My personal 5. I was going to ask Ryan. I was going to send Ryan the list and say, what do you think about this? I was like, no.
Yours.
This is my list. Your list can be different, but I have the 5 biggest moments, I think, of Pekka's career. I want to get to those next. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We're live from the Wholesaling Studio, powered by RumbleOn.com at 3rd and Home out here in Germantown. Nashville Sounds tonight. It's ESPN 1025 The Game, and we're streaming on the Game Nashville app.
Three stars of the game. The third star of the game from your Nashville Predators is you, the fans. The second star of the game from your Nashville Predators is the Smashville Standing O. And the first star of the game, with 30 saves and the shutout, number 35, Becca Reedy.
What a great salute he and the team are receiving now, and I can't think of anyone who deserves it more.
Pekka Rinne, and I would agree with Pete Weber, the voice of the Nashville Predators last night. Pekka, oh man. Pekka, oh man. Unbelievable. And I know, again, a lot of people want him back, and I want him back too, but it's a pretty good way to go out.
Such a cool way to go out. I had goosebumps the entire time he was skating around. Throughout the game, he was getting standing ovations. It was just the coolest experience.
So that certainly has to be on the career accomplishment list, for sure. But it doesn't crack the top 5 list that I have for Pekka Rinne in his Nashville Predators career. And again, his list may be different than my list. He is totally welcome to have his own list. Again, like I said, I was thinking about checking with Ryan to see, hey, what do you think of this list? And then I was like, no, this has got to be my list of my moments, top 5 moments in Pekka Rinne's Predators career. So we start with number 5.
Number 5.
2012 round 1 against the Detroit Red Wings. If you had been a Predators fan from the beginning, you knew that the Detroit Red Wings at the beginning, before there was a Chicago Blackhawks, before there was a Winnipeg Jets, before more recently what seems like there's a Dallas Stars, the biggest rival for the Predators was the Detroit Red Wings. The Red Wings were the big brother, the Predators were the little brother, and every time they'd play Detroit, the Red Wing fans would pack Bridgestone Arena, and quite frankly, the Red Wings were always towards the top of the standings and always knocking the Predators out of the playoffs, but not in 2012. Detroit's last year in the Western Conference. The Predators draw the Red Wings in the first round, and Pekka Rinne was fantastic, including in games 4 and 5. In game 4 at Detroit, Pekka Rinne held Detroit to 1 goal. Game 5, the clincher, Detroit scored 1 goal. He had a .944 save percentage, and as a fan, I remember being on the escalator on my way down after Game 1 with everybody chanting inside Bridgestone Arena, "Red Wings suck, Red Wings suck." It was very, very exciting. And it kind of was one of those ones where you felt like, okay, it's one thing the year before to get past Anaheim and to get into a second round, but it felt like in 2012 that team could compete. Pekka was absolutely phenomenal. It really started off as a back-and-forth series. He was phenomenal stealing a game in Detroit, and then they came back and shut him down and clinched it in Nashville.
Number 4.
Number 4 is Pekka Rinne's performance in Games 6 and 7 against Anaheim in 2016. I believe that opened the window. And I know the Predators didn't win the Cup that year or even get to the Cup final, but I think that's when the window opened. That was when the core group, yes, Shea Weber was still there, when the core group really got their first taste of, we might be pretty good. Predators go on the road. They take the first 2 from Anaheim. They lose 3 in a row, and they come back to Bridgestone Arena. Game 6 didn't feel good. The Predators were the 7th seed in the Western Conference. The Ducks were the number 2 seed. The Ducks, they had a really good team that year. And they go back to Bridgestone Arena in Game 6. Predators win 3-1. Pekka was fantastic. Game 7 of that series, the Predators won 2-1. And the end of the game was just an onslaught on net. And Pekka Rinne was fantastic. In Game 7, Pekka Rinne saved 36 of 37 shots. And again, that set up a series with San Jose. They went 7 against San Jose, ended up getting beaten 7. San Jose went on to the Cup final that year. But that was of the run. You know, when the window opened with the Cup final the next year and the President's Trophy that was, I think, the moment where it was, okay, this team can beat some pretty good teams, because that Anaheim team was pretty good. And he willed them to victory in Game 6 and absolutely willed them to victory in Game 7. And the buzz surrounding the team, I think that's even when the buzz really started to pick up with this group, was when they won that Anaheim series, got to the second round against San Jose, You had a Keith Urban concert on the plaza the day of a game, and it really, the buzz started to build. It didn't become 2017 right then and there, but it felt like you could tell, hey, this team might be pretty good.
Number 3.
Pekka's Vezina Trophy 2018 season. And that felt like a season of unfinished business. And yes, they didn't finish that business by winning the Stanley Cup, but he was so unbelievably awesome that year for the Vezina Trophy. He really made the team the best team in the league. They were a team that the year before had finished 8th, brought most of their group back, and the group was determined, but he was awesome. He was fantastic. And everybody that year wanted him to win the Vezina Trophy. I thought he was a shoo-in to win the Vezina Trophy that year. Taylor Hall, coached by John Hines, ended up winning the Hart Trophy, but I really thought that Pekka Rinne deserved Hart Trophy votes and deserved to be in the discussion. And the reason was he elevated that team. They played better because of him. He elevated the whole group that whole year, and they were the best team in the league. And what he did that season is not doable consistently. But after the great cup run that they had the year before, he was fantastic for the entire 2018 season. Again, it feels bad because all of these moments have a and then, as in, they beat Anaheim and then they lose in 7 to San Jose, and then the Winnipeg series happened. And we know what happened in the Winnipeg series, and if you had to say what were the lowlights of his career, that would probably be one of them. But that 2018 season, again, they were the best team in the league. And they played with a buzz, and they played together, and they were all pulling the rope in the same direction, and he was just fantastic. He was dependable, and like always, he put the team first. But that Vezina Trophy season was something special.
Number 2.
Number 2, Pekka Rinne in the 2017 Western Conference Final. I think it's easy to remember some of the big highlights. Everybody remembers the Colton Sissons hat trick. And everybody remembers that Colin Wilson and Pontus Aberg had big goals down the stretch. James Neal with an overtime game winner in Game 1. But it was Pekka Rinne who carried them through. Then overtime, the series is tied 2-2 going back to Anaheim. And just like the year before when the Predators knocked off Anaheim, Anaheim had a really freaking good team. And not only did Anaheim have a good team, but the Predators were hurt. All of a sudden, Mike Fisher, concussed, out. Your captain, your number 2 or number 3 center, out. Ryan Johansson, who had played the best he's ever played as a Nashville Predator for the 3 or 4 weeks leading up to that moment, compartment syndrome, emergency surgery, out for the rest of the playoffs. They were calling up guys we had never heard of, like Freddie Gaudreau. Game 5 in Anaheim with the injuries in a tied series, Pekka Rinne allowed 1 goal on 33 shots. Game 6, the clincher, the Colton Sissons hat trick, the Predators got 16 shots off. Now, they scored 6 times, which is pretty amazing, but they got off 16 shots. Pekka Rinne stopped 38 of 41. Anaheim absolutely mopped the floor with you that night. They got off 41 shots, and you got off 16. And you won because your goalie came through. Team's injured. No one believes in it. No one thinks you have a chance. Pekka Rinne, again, 38 of 41, 32 of 33. He was fantastic to get them into the Cup final.
Number 1.
I think the biggest moment of his Predators career was in the Chicago Blackhawks series in 2017. Many people remember the fact that I did not give the Predators any chance to win that series. And Rinne did not have a great 2016-17 season. But in Game 1, he shut him out. Shut him out in Game 1. 29 of 29, and they spent most of the third period in the Nashville end. In Game 2, they shut him out 5-0. And once the Predators won those 2 games in Chicago, you thought, okay, they can do this. They can upset the top seed. They can upset the team that had given them fits in 2010 and given them fits in 2015 in the Chicago Blackhawks. In 4 games, Pekka Rinne allowed 3 goals. For the entire series, the 4-game sweep, he was 123 of 126, a 976 save percentage. And by the way, that Blackhawks team had 3 of the best players in the history of the game: Patrick Kane, Jonathan Taves, and Duncan Keith. And that's what started the entire 2017 run. That, I thought, was the best moment of Pekka Rinne's career. Thoughts on the list?
I think it's so cool, especially because, I mean, like you mentioned, that big Anaheim series, and then you go in and you may not win the next series, you may not win a cup, but the fact that all of these were just huge milestones for the Nashville Predators, having such a statement win over certain teams, over certain games, I thought was super cool, and I think you can tell Pekka Rinne's impact on the city without needing a cup.
Ian, your thoughts on the list?
Thought it was a good list. Those are some legit moments for sure.
I mean, that means something to me that Ian likes my list. I mean, I figured Ian would have a tweak or two in that list, and I was
Ian, if you've got a tweak, go ahead and tell him.
Pleasantly surprised. Do you have a tweak?
Nothing that came to mind right off the top.
Okay. Hal Gill will join us next. He played in that 2012 Detroit series. He broadcasted in that 2018 Vezina Trophy season. His thoughts on last night, his thoughts on Pekka. That's next. Stillman Company. We are live from 3rd and Home. It's ESPN 102.5 The Game. Predators winners last night. Pekka Rinne, the biggest winner, obviously, and for obvious reasons, as the Predators took care of business and what seemed like the perfect send-off. Again, I'm not rooting for Pekka to hang it up, but I don't think you could ask for a better exit or a better final call if that is what it ends up being. And there are a lot of lessons I think that, that we probably have learned from Pekka Rinne over the years. And I think, my bigger takeaway from last night was it felt like the perfect celebration of everything he's accomplished. There may be a better player in the future for the Nashville Predators. I think a lot of people are rooting that someday there will be somebody who becomes the greatest player in the franchise that's better than Pekka. And I don't know Pekka very well, but I think I know him well enough to say that he probably hopes that there is somebody who is a better player than him down the road, but there will never be another guy who gets the city to fall in love with the team and the sport like he did over the last decade plus. Hal Gill, current radio analyst, one of Pekka's teammates, one of the defensemen in front of him over the years. Hal, I looked at last night's game. I compared it to Kobe Bryant's last game when he dropped 60 and dropped the mic on his way out, or Derek Jeter's last game when he got the base hit, to walk off a Yankees win. And I look at last night's game and I say, you know what? This is so good for the fans to be able to celebrate him just as much as they probably wanted to. I think the fans enjoyed celebrating him more than he enjoyed the fans celebrating himself. What did you make of last night and kind of the feeling of legacy that came from last night's game?
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. I got to be honest with you. I was going into that game, okay, it means nothing. Who really cares? Let's just get to the playoffs. And then in warm-ups, the first shot that he took in warm-ups, the fans all stood up and started cheering. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then they did it every time. And then, he took a break and circled over by the boards and said hi to his fiance and his son on the glass. And I was like, oh, this is pretty awesome. And then as the game went on, the first save he made was unreal. It was like, it was of mine as a former teammate. Like, I just know how much, his teammates love him and how much he means to the city. And then it just kind of snowballed after that. And yeah, he played a great game. And, that's the most important thing to me is looking at, you're going to need good goaltending, and you have Juice, who's been awesome. But how nice is it to have Tex in your back pocket? And he was awesome. And then, the fans just kind of overwhelmed the whole thing and made it a big deal, which was awesome. And then, of course, his teammates follow it up and stay on the ice with him as he takes a lap. So a pretty special night, and it hit me right in the feels. It was awesome.
Mm-hmm. And you brought up the idea of having him in your back pocket. I mean, I just said earlier this hour, if he doesn't come back next year and UC Saros is out there and they get him a backup goalie, it's going to be hard to look to somebody if something happens like it did this year, where Pekka really pulled this team. When this thing got turned around, it was Pekka 38 of 39 at Tampa Bay. It was Pekka 27 of 30 in a shootout win at Dallas. It was Pekka 27 of 29 against Chicago. It's going to be hard to find somebody to replace that. And Sean Henry was on our show yesterday, Hal, and he was talking about, hey, when this thing got turned around, Pekka was a really big part of it. You obviously covered the team. You're with, you're around, Pekka. I mean, it's hard to put into words what he means to the city and what he means to the franchise, but even what he's meant this season for this team, Hal.
Yeah, no, that stretch was unreal. And, I've been on teams where you don't have a good backup goalie, and you'll be out of the playoffs pretty quick. You need that. And especially the way the game is played now, it's more and more you need a good tandem in net, and the Preds have it right now. And the reason they're here, and, I go back to something as simple as that Joe Pavelski paddle save that he made in the shootout that got him an extra point and took a point away from Dallas. Like that's a game changer. Those are a season changer. And, he had a great stretch, and I just think it's too hard to win in this league without a good goaltending tandem. You can have one good goaltender and he gets hurt, and then boom, you're out of the playoffs. So I really hope they do sign him, because I know they need him, and I know he needs to, of course, selfishly, I'd love to see him out there, and I know the fans would say the same.
Hal, you're a former teammate of his. Hal Gill, presented by Duncan, featuring their new location in Belle Meade and TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. You're a former teammate of him. One thing that makes it hard for me to see him come back is I can't imagine the dedication and the sacrifices that he makes during the offseason and during the season to keep his body in the shape it's in. I think it's a hard sell to ask a guy who has done so much and competed at such a high level to say, hey, we want you back, but we want you to play once every 4 nights. We want you to play once every 5 nights. And he knows UC Soros is ready for the number 1 role. That's where how I see this being a hard sell. How do you see, you know him and what he puts into it and his level of competition. How much do you think that maybe weighs into his mind?
Yeah. No, you know what? It's funny you say that because we actually were in the same doctor's office having our hips looked at, and that's when he went and had the hip surgery. That was, it seems like forever ago, but in a hockey career, as a goalie, to have hip surgery and then to be able to come back from it, I declined it and said, if I have hip surgery, I'm done. Of course, being older, but he went ahead and had it done, and I talked to him after, I said, how are you doing after the hip? And, he goes out and relearns the position, really. I mean, he's much more compact than he was when I was playing with him. And I think a large part is, he's learned to retool himself so that he could be effective. And he goes out and wins the Vezina and has great seasons after that. And I asked him, I said, are you feeling old? And he goes, I feel so much better now that I know how to take care of my body. And he's learned that over the years. And, we have the same chiropractor that sees him, and he says his body is awesome. He said he responds well to treatment, and he's in the best shape you could be in. And so, honestly, I don't see – I know he's getting older, but I just don't see it as he's done. I think he's got a lot more years in him, which is crazy to say. And like you say, a lot goes into the way he takes care of himself.
Mm-hmm. How we were kind of talking about what Pekka has meant to the city and what it's done for the Predators and how much now people in the city love the Predators based upon the success they had with him in net. You played in the league before coming here, so you knew what kind of the vibe was around the league pre-ownership changes and roster rebuilds and really pre-Pekka. You played with Pekka kind of in the middle of that, and now you're broadcasting on the back end of that. How much of the success that he has garnered, how much of that do you attribute to him and how it's changed the narrative of the Predators both inside the city and around the league?
Well, like I always said, when you came in to play Nashville and you're going to deal with a team that's just going to be relentless work ethic, not necessarily a ton of skill, although there's a few years where there's, you had Forsberg and you had Korea, you had those guys coming in, and that was a little bit different. But for the most part, Trotz had a team that was going to work hard, and then you had Pekka Rinne who was going to steal games. That was the narrative as it went forward, and Rinne would go out there and win games. He'd make outrageous saves. He wouldn't quit on any puck. Just an awesome athlete. And, I think he kind of won the hearts of everyone by playing that way, by being a guy that would do everything. And as his career went on, I talked about him being more compact and being more technical. And I'll tell you what, I love playing in front of him because rarely does he give up a bad rebound. And as a defenseman, there's nothing worse than a goalie who gives up bad rebounds, and he doesn't do it at all. And in fact, most of the time he just makes a glove save, and he did it last night. Like, how many plays did he just kill by just making a clean glove save and the play's over? Where sometimes that turns into a rebound off the pad. He's making a glove save and stopping it, and that's a big difference when you're playing for a guy like that.
Last thing for you, Hal Gill, our guest, again presented by Duncan, featuring their new location in Belle Meade, TriStar Moving, TriStar Movers with 5-star service. How big was it for Matt Duchene last night, and a little bit Ryan Johansson, but Matt Duchene to get those 2 goals last night? I know that Carolina wasn't playing their full complement of guys. I know Rod Brindamore wasn't, putting out everything he's going to do next week in the playoffs. But how big of a confidence booster was it for Matt Duchene, and how much do they need him in this Carolina series?
Yeah, you know what? Once it comes playoff time, everyone is given everything they got on every shift. And that's when your skill guys, your elite players, can make a huge difference. So I really think you need a guy like Duchene. You need Johansson, Forsberg, your top guns. You need them firing on all cylinders. So I think it's a huge boost in confidence. But at the same time, it's a game that in the end doesn't mean much. And I think guys were out there just playing loose and flying. When there's pressure in the playoffs, that's when we're going to find out what these guys are made of. So great to have that confidence for Duchene and for Johansson going forward. But I want to see how it translates. That's going to be the big test. And that's what we're looking at going into this playoff series with Carolina.
Yeah. Hal Gill, as always, he'll be on the broadcast. Hal, we will catch up either later this week or next week to break down the Carolina Hurricanes. Always good to talk to you, Hal.
Nice to talk to you. Hi, Caroline.
Hey, Hal, I'm here. I'm alive.
Okay, good to hear from you.
Yeah, blink twice if
You
I
guys
need help.
be good.
Have a good one.
Take care, guys.
Yep, Hal Gill joining us on the show again. Presented by Duncan, featuring their new location in Belmead, TriStar Moving, TriStar Movers with 5-star service. Speaking of Caroline, did you like the new and improved Carolines yesterday?
I had a blast, first of all, and we can talk about that a little bit of last night because I was fully prepared for you to jinx the Predators yet again because every time Jared Stillman picks the Predators to win, except that Saturday night against Carolina.
Two in a row.
Oh, two of what in a row?
Carolines is next. Stillman Company. We're live from Third and Home. Sounds, boys, starting to get packed in here. Sounds tonight. It's ESPN 102.5 The Game.
They face off at center. Fabro takes it back inside, skates behind Pekka Rinne, and Pekka Rinne has his 60th career NHL shutout here tonight, his second against Carolina, and he has tied Tom Barrasso with 369 career wins in goal. They celebrate around Pekka Rinne. Predators take this one 5-0 tonight over the Carolina Hurricanes.
5-0. That means Predators money line, cha-ching. Predators plus 1.5, cha-ching. And the under 5.5. I got a little nervous.
Okay, I did not know that the Carolina Hurricanes were just going to not score a single goal.
I told you Becca was going to play well.
I was feeling good about the over.
Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
Well,
Now,
I mean, and also, how was I supposed to know that you weren't going to jinx the Predators yet again?
This is the unofficial count. The official count is back in the Green Hill studio.
Yes.
This is an unofficial count, though. I believe yesterday in Carolines, I won 7-1 yesterday.
No.
You were
picked
3
enough
and 5.
of the same things.
You were 3 and 5. I think I was 7-1. I missed on Tampa Bay, whom I took money line. You took the Florida Panthers. But other than that, I got the Preds money line. I got the Preds plus 1.5. I got the under 5.5. I got the Angels money line over the Astros. I got the Grizzlies money line.
I also took the Angels money line.
That's where your 3 and 5 comes from.
Okay. And not fair.
We got the under.
That I take the Grizzlies spread and you take the Grizzlies money line. That's a cop out.
Hey, you're allowed to make whatever bet you want.
Wait, it's not. It's silly. Minus 500 money line. Like, give me a break.
We both got the under, and I got the Orioles. How about the Orioles? How about them Orioles?
How about them
Oh,
Orioles?
yes. And so we're going to have a challenge. I think I have an idea what I'm willing to give if I lose. And this will probably be like a monthly challenge. So this will be the first thing.
Okay.
If I lose a month of gambling to you, I will, for a whole day, will rename the show Caroline and Company.
Yes.
For a whole day. But now you got to think of something to offer to me. So, Ian, you remember.
Well, it's already Stillman and Company, so I can't really match
you
you
got
on
to figure that out. Ian, you remember when I was willing to offer to Floyd to have my back waxed on the air in exchange
That's
for
tempting.
In exchange for him paying for my 30th birthday party, which obviously he did not do, and he was not willing to take that bet.
He did not want to see that.
He was not willing to take that bet, which I would have really liked for him to pay for my 30th birthday party. That's neither here nor there. But it's time now for Caroline's.
Get in on the action. Put the money on the mahogany. What's on tap on the sports books? It's time to break it all down with Caroline's. Here on Stillman and Company.
On ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hal talks a lot, so let's speed through it.
We are wrapping up the NHL regular season tonight. Bruins, Capitals. I'm taking the Caps money line plus 152. Bruins have Yaroslav Harak in net.
He sucks.
Yeah, 8.73 save percentage in the last 5 games. Ovechkin is out, but they've been able to win 6 of their last 10 without him. I mean, just with a 8.73 save percentage, that's Curtis McElhinney numbers. I'm taking Caps plus 152 money line.
Okay, what is the puck line?
I will check on the puck line. I believe it's 1.5.
I'm going to take the Boston Bruins. I think the Bruins will win. Give me the Bruins plus 1.5 here. If I've learned anything about Peter Laviolette in meaningless games, it is that Peter does not have the he just doesn't have the motivating juice in meaningless games.
Well,
I mean, they got to be desperate for me to bet Peter Laviolette. So, and again, this is going to be like the Predators and the Hurricanes. This, I believe, is going to be the playoff series. I'm going to take the Bruins plus 1.5 if that is in fact the puck line.
Right.
But you're right, Halak sucks.
Yes. And to be fair, they will face each other in the playoffs. So, yes, like in terms of standings, this game is meaningless, but that motivation going into the playoffs, I think, is huge. We've also got Braves, Blue Jays tonight. I'm going to take the Blue Jays money line, and that's not just because you're a Braves fan. Blue Jays are putting Robbie Ray out on the mound. He has a 3.14 ERA. It's a 6th start of the season. Not great, but Bryce Wilson, will be starting for the Braves. 6.75 ERA.
So I'm going to take the Blue Jays money line as well. But the reason I'm going to take the Blue Jays money line.
Stealing my ideas, aren't you?
Well, I'm going to do it because the Braves are terrible against left-handed pitching. I mean, they're terrible against left-handed pitching, and I watched them get swept by the Blue Jays last week, and I thought it was one of the, baseball's weird where you're going to have like a bad start here or something there. I mean, they clearly were dominated by the Blue Jays in that series. And to your point, Bryce Wilson sucks. So I am going to take the Blue Jays money line.
Blue Jays money line is minus 106. Braves money line is minus 110. So not great value there, but I feel good about a Blue Jays money line right here. Moving to the NBA, we got Heat Celtics. I'm taking the Celtics money line plus 105. The Heat beat the Celtics on Sunday. That was the last time they played each other. But this has huge playoff implications for the Celtics. They know they're only 2 games behind to make it to the playoffs. So beating the Heat tonight will not only put them only 1 game behind, but it will also have the Celtics beating the Heat in their season-long series, which would be the tiebreaker in case they do end up in a tie at the end of the season going into the playoffs. So the Heat know that there's huge implications for this game, and they have a healthy, strong, deep roster out tonight. So feeling good about the men in green.
So I'm going to take Miami, and I'm going to take them, instead of the money line, I'm going to take them minus 1.5.
Okay.
Because I think it's pretty much the same thing, you know. But
right, basically,
I'm taking Miami minus 1.5, and here's why. Jaylen Brown out for the year, and I think the Celtics give a crap level has not been high all season long. I think it will continue along that trend. This is a team that if their coach was not Brad Stevens and their coach was not getting $100 million offers in college, they would have fired their coach. And so I don't believe in the Celtics. I don't. And I think that, I think Spoelstra is a good coach. And I think finally, now that he doesn't have LeBron anymore, I think he gets the credit for how good of a coach he is. I'm taking Miami. I think Miami's going to win. I think they're going to send the Celtics to that play-in tournament or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in the Celtics. Give me the Miami Heat to cover. I think they're a better team. Boston doesn't have their best player. Well, Tatum's probably their best player.
Marcus Smart.
But Jaylen Brown's probably their second best player. They don't have Jaylen Brown, and I think they got the better coach. I'm going Miami.
All right. Well, I will see you tonight, and I'm looking forward to tweeting at you mean things whenever I win all of these games and all of these bets.
It'd be nice for you to win a couple. I mean, it'd be nice.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it'd be great if I could win a couple.
It'd be nice. I'm gonna throw one out there as we head out. I am going to take the Dodgers money line tonight at home against Seattle. The Dodgers are reeling. Walker Buehler on the mound. This feels like a market correction kind of game. So give me the Dodgers money line tonight.
What's the spread on that game?
Normally I should know that since I hold you responsible for knowing those things. I do not know.
It is 1.5. I'm going to take the Dodgers minus 1.5 for a couple reasons. I think that the Dodgers are just that much better, and the odds are way better. Dodgers money line minus 235. You just don't like people making money.
I just tell how it is around here. Again,
Dodgers minus 1.5 is
7-1
minus
versus
108.
3-5. That's it. We are out of here. We will see you tomorrow. Meanwhile, Ryan Porth is in the On Deck Circle. Preds Insiders. Tons of reaction to that win last night. What could be Pekka Rinne's final game as a Nashville Predator. We'll see you tomorrow.